Well, hello everybody on a very busy 4th of July weekend, and however you're celebrating in the USA, there's been motorsport aplenty today, whether it's been from the Styrian Mountains in Spielberg, and what a great Formula 2 race we watched from there earlier on, or here in Florida, 3.56 miles, Daytona International Speedway, the most famous circuit in the USA, and well, you know what? It could be something just a little bit different. For the first time in a long time, we've got a summer race. The spiritual home of the Paul Revere 250, rebranded as the WeatherTech 240, 2 hours and 40 minutes rather than the distance, on a damp and overcast early Saturday evening at Daytona International Speedway. In the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre, it's John Hindhaugh along with Jeremy Shaw and Shea Adam. There has been a huge rainstorm since we qualified. And what's more, we've had thunder, and more importantly, for the safety of everybody, we've had lightning. And we are now in what's called, well, I'll let Shea Adam talk about this, because Shea, you're the one who has to talk to the IMSA officials down there in pit lane. That's your normal bailiwick. We have different levels of warnings for all of the crews and the officials. How's it going, and what are race control saying now at Daytona International Speedway?
Well, race control has issued a stage 3 weather warning, which is about the most severe that you'll see on a race weekend. That means evacuate to a place of safety as soon as you can. The Daytona International Speedway has also advised people inside at the campsites or in the grandstands to take shelter because, well, there's some more bad weather coming through the area right now. It's a yellow cell over the storm. And even though it might not be dropping any rain, there is electricity in the air. So everyone has had to leave their positions. The crews have all been told to leave the cars on the pit lane, and they are making their way back to the garages. So right now we're under a brief hold. We hope a brief hold while this storm rolls through. But it has been a wet one so far today. And it's looking like as soon as this little bit of a storm rolls out, we might get a clear window. The problem is that there's a low pressure front moving down through North Florida. It's sort of on the edge of Jacksonville right now, and it's acting as a wall. So this storm, which should have blown through by now, has stalled out and is being held in place by the low pressure system as more rain moves in behind it.
At IMSA Radio, and that's how you get in touch with us. I can see the new for this race Lexus LC 500s moving to the end of the pit lane. They are new safety cars for the WeatherTech 240 here, and I've got to say, a safety car driver, just two white cars sitting with the amber bars on the amber light bars on the top of them as the spectators. Only 5,000 have been let in. All have to be Florida residents. They've been asked to clear the public areas and shelter, go for some shelter at the moment. The new LC 500 normally aspirated 5-litre V8 for just 471 of your brake horsepower, 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds, and a new 10-speed direct shift gearbox which changes gear in 0.12 of a second, which even in my youth, I don't think with a clutch and a gear lever I could have done that. Now, we'll have the opportunity with us on a 30-minute delay at the moment. We'll keep our eyes and ears on what's going on, but it does give us a little chance to catch up with Spencer Pumpelly and Rob Ferriol, brand new into this championship with a new organisation, Hardpoint Racing. And a couple of weeks ago for Midweek Motorsport, we got the chance to make the announcement of their entry into the WeatherTech SportsCar Championship.
Racing on America's classic circuits. This is IMSA Radio.
We'll speak to Spencer Pumpelly in a moment, but Rob Ferriol, tell us the good news, please.
Oh yeah, we've got great news, John. So I'm excited to announce that Spencer and I will be expanding not only our efforts in IMSA, but also our partnership with Audi by launching an Audi R8 LMS GT3 entry in this year's IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship GT Daytona class.
That is great news in such a difficult time for everybody, and we know how hard this situation is. It's not just that, though, because you're not going away from Michelin Pilot Challenge either.
We are not. We will be running both cars, double dipping, so to speak.
So, Spencer, that's extra work for you as well. And I've known you long enough to know that, frankly, if I asked you to drive in every single race over the weekend, you'd be absolutely delighted. So you must be really pleased about this.
I am very excited. You're right. I've spent a lot of time doing both the Michelin Pilot Challenge Series and the GTD Series. So this should get me back to normal, at least as much as we can in these days and ages of COVID.
I've got to ask you, Rob, in a situation where so many people are taking a long, hard look at their commitments and potentially even scaling back, why is this, don't get me wrong, I'm not criticising it, but why is this the right time to expand? I know you've harboured some hopes and expectations to get into the WeatherTech SportsCar Championship, but why now, and what's helped you make that decision?
Well, ironically enough, John, the last 4 months of kind of pandemic shutdown has given us an opportunity to continue maturing our own internal program with the team as well as the GT4 program. And, we had a discussion about this earlier in the season before it got kicked off. And we looked at really targeting 2021 for, a potential move into GTD. But what the shutdown allowed us to do is just to continue refining the team internally, testing, maturing the program, bonding as a team, and really getting procedures in place. So, when the opportunity came up, relative a few short weeks ago, it was a pretty quick decision. We took a couple hours to bat it around. He said, you know what, we're in a lot different place now than we were 6 months ago, and it's a good opportunity for us, but it's also good for the sport. It's good for the series. It's good for IMSA. Let's get another car out there. We have the unique opportunity to be able to do it. So let's do it.
I'd like to talk to you in a moment, Rob, about Team Hardpoint, which is the team involved here, which is a relatively new entity. But Spencer, if I can come to you for a moment, I've got to say, you two guys going into this and for many weekends doing double duty, we know how competitive Michelin Pilot Challenge is, but it's not as if the GT Daytona category of the WeatherTech Championship is a cakewalk either. That's another shark pool, sir.
Yeah, it definitely is. But, when I met Rob for the first time, he was racing in the Porsche's Cup. And, I hop in and out of these cars a lot, doing all the different coaching and driving that I do. Of all the cars I drive, that's got to be the most difficult car there is to drive. It doesn't have ABS. Yeah. It's very touchy. And Rob was very, very quick in that car to the point where, I'd go throw a data lap down in the beginning of the weekend, and a lot of times he would embarrass me come qualifying. So I know he's got the skill and the pace. He got a taste of the GT3 car when we did the International Motorsports game at Vallelunga in Rome back in, I think that was September, which was a lot of fun. So I know he's up to the challenge of the GT3 car. And I think this is a natural progression. The opportunity arose. We've got the team in place. So hopefully this will just continue our, steep ramp up the learning curve here, and we might be able to occasionally find some success.
Oh, I would be very surprised if you two didn't. Twice a runner-up in that Porsche, the IMSA GT3 Cup Challenge by Yokohama, Rob. So clearly everything that Andy's saying, he's absolutely spot on. You've got a very smooth driving style. Was that International Motorsport Games in Vallelunga, was that in some ways a catalyst for you to take a harder look at the GT3 machinery?
I think it was, and Spencer will tell you I was probably a little nervous going into it, having not sat in a GT3 car, much less driven one, or, in Europe for that matter. But, it was a good opportunity in a really neat environment to kind of test out the GT3 car, and I really enjoyed it. I think the GT3 car brings together some parallels from my experience in the Cup with kind of the speed and the rawness of the car, but then also brings in some parallels from the GT4. So I think it's a good mix of the two cars.
And tell me about the team, about Hardpoint. It's, as I said, it's relatively new, formed only back in 2018, but clearly stepping up to a 2-car program in 2 separate series. You must have total confidence there.
I do. I have confidence in the guys and girls on the team. You know, that was kind of the very first thing I did when I decided we were going to kind of chart our own path and determine our own outcome, was look at the people involved and bring together the right people that have the right mindset to work as a team. And, you know, drawing on my own experiences in the military, my experience, you know, running a larger company, you know, it's always about the people. So, you know, we looked at that first. That was the first thing we worked out, and then we started bolting everything else together. But yeah, short period of time. No one's ever accused me of being timid, so it's not completely out of the normal. But yeah, we're excited. I think we have the right bones in place, and we're going to use this year to start packing some meat on.
And we should say it's not as if you've been sitting around, Rob, because during this lockdown area, you've started something that I think is a brilliant idea. The non-profit charity looking after weekend warriors, if you will, race crew members who clearly couldn't earn any income in the last 3.5 months. How's that gone?
It's gone really well. I think we're going to pay a couple grants out this week. We're up to about 50 grants that we've paid out since we started this on March 27th.
Good for you.
It's been an extremely rewarding and humbling use of my time the last few months. You know, part of this whole Hardpoint kind of brand system that we've put together is it's really, you know, it's really about promoting sports car racing and promoting the sport and getting people not just aware of the sport outside of our own community, but getting more people in it and hopefully keeping people in the sport longer. And so, you know, what we did with the foundation is really a natural extension of this philosophy of kind of leaning in to sports car racing, not just in the U.S. but around the world. So I saw, you know, early on when the pandemic hit, you know, we were gearing up, getting ready to go down to Sebring, and it, you know, came to a screeching halt. And, you know, my first reaction obviously is to look internally to Team Hardpoint and make sure that we can, you know, keep everybody whole until it's time to go racing again. But then, you know, I started thinking about the paddock writ large and, you know, the way the race economy works and that structure you mentioned about the weekend warriors. And I said, hey, you know, we've got capacity over here with Hardpoint Outfitters to crank out some apparel. So it started with apparel sales. And then we added in the donation element once the demand started to kick up.
No, it's been absolutely wonderful, and clearly we're not back to full quote unquote normality yet. So we wish you all the best in that. Let's drag you back to the racing side of things, Spencer. It's not that far away now for the resumption, as it is, of the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship. We're off to Daytona for what for me looks like the recreation of the old Paul Revere event. 4th of July, Saturday night into the evening, at least, even if it's not into the darkness. That's going to be a very different feel to Daytona than when we're normally there in January.
Well, yeah, the two biggest things are going to be the heat, for sure. That's going to affect the car, the drivers, and the crews that have to, you know, maintain the cars. And then, you know, on top of that, we're going to have new things with the social distancing and some of the protocols of getting in the racetrack, you know, having to wear masks and taking precautions and kind of looking out for each other. And then we'll also be somewhat isolated too. I don't think we're going to have the free movement about the paddock that we're used to having. But the other thing is, you know, we're going to have a really short weekend. Yeah. It's going to be unload, do one practice, and then spend the day on Saturday getting ready for the race and racing. So it's going to reward those teams that are ready to go and have done some work on the off season during the break here to stay sharp. And if you get rusty at all, you don't have any time to kind of catch up. So we'll be under a lot of pressure. And I think it's, you know, Daytona is a fairly forgiving track. It's 6 real turns. It's not like, you know, Le Mans where you have 20 fast corners to go through. So hopefully it'll be a nice way to kind of ease back into it. But we have a lot ahead of us. for Daytona for sure, and then coming up for Sebring, it'll be our first time we're actually pulling the double duty and doing both. So we got a little bit of a challenge, but we're ready.
How do you feel, Spencer, about two different versions of the same car? And how do you think? Rob's still faded up, so he might jump in and disagree with you here. But how do you think Rob's going to cope with this? Because when you did the International Motorsport Games, it wasn't. I don't know why it wouldn't be with an Audi, but it wasn't with an Audi. You've been used to GT4 Audis, and jumping in between the two. Are there enough differences to remind you and Rob in particular? No disrespect, Rob, but slightly less experience there. Remind you both that you're in a different car.
That's a very good question. I don't think I can remember running the same version of a car. I've done a lot of things, racing maybe a Cayman one weekend in a 911.
Yes.
In the GTD, but I can't remember the last time or if I ever did this particular version. And I've always said the bigger the differences in the car, the actually easier it is, not the harder, because you're reminded right away that this is a different approach to this corner and the brake point's going to be a lot different. But when the car starts to sound the same, feel the same, the steering wheels feels the same, the visuals look the same, the engine notes the same. It sometimes can be easy to forget which one you're in, and if there's subtle differences in, say, where you brake, it's easy to get it wrong and find yourself going through the weeds. So,
the reason I asked that was because the new AMG GT4 borrows a lot of the interior from the GT3, and yet they're very different cars, particularly in the amount of aero and the way you drive them through the corners. Typically, a GT4 is a little bit more momentum through the corners, trying to keep it up, and you haven't got the aero so much, but the GT3s, it's nail the brakes all the way up to the apex and then hammer it back out again. So it can be a completely different driving style.
Yeah, it can be, and I'll let you know exactly how that all works out after I've done it. But here's the thing, with Rob, I always say that the more new cars you drive, the better you get at learning the next one.
Totally.
So learning cars is a learned process. And now Rob's been in several different types of Porsches. He's been in the Ferrari. He's driven the GT4 Audi now. So he's gotten better at adapting. And I think the GT3 car has some advantages for a driver who's unfamiliar.
Yes.
Things happen quickly in it for sure, which is going to be way different than the GT4 car where I feel like I'm waiting all the time when I drive it. But it's also very direct, so it's very easy to get the feedback from the car, and I think that'll be to his and my advantage.
And Rob, are you going to have a chance to test before you go to this excruciatingly truncated weekend where basically you'll roll off the truck, have a chance to have a couple of laps, and then basically be into qualifying in the race? So a bit of testing in the GT3 before then, or does the current circumstances preclude that?
We are working through that now. We would like to, at the very least, get a bit of a shakedown run. We have a test scheduled for the GT4 that was already on the calendar, so we'd like to be able to get the car shaken down at least once or twice before we show up in Daytona. But we'll see how that goes. And
how has been dealing with Audi Sport Customer Racing in the US, Tristan and the guys from up in DC? How's it been working with them? Obviously, you've got a relationship with them for the GT4.
It's been fantastic. That was I don't want to say a nervous item of mine when we made the transition into GT4, but coming from a manufacturer that I'd been involved with and familiar with for a couple of years at that point, moving to a new one was I had a little bit of anxiety through the unknown, but from day one, even last year when we were just testing the car out in a couple of the Michelin Pilot Challenge races, they have been phenomenal. From Tristan up at the top to Andy and Sean and the engineering team, they've been fantastic. I mean, I think we are in weekly communication and have been all through the off season into this year, the downtime, and then now with the GTD program, that's just it's just increased that level of support and interaction. So I'm super pleased with Audi and really excited to bring on another car and see how this season goes, and frankly just get the season going.
I think Amen from a lot of people to that. Final thought from you, Spencer. Of course, the problem that we've got now, and this is going to happen for all of us on either side of the fence. We've now got to get a season-long's racing into approximately 4.5, maybe five months, and therefore, actually doing what you guys are doing, if you are going to doubling up with the same sanctioning body is actually probably a really sensible thing to do.
Yeah, it seems like it. Now, keep in mind, I'm also racing in some other series.
So exactly, that's my point.
I don't think my wife is going to see me till mid-November once the season gets started again. And of course, you can't bring the kids to the races anymore either because of the limitations on entries. So it'll be tough away from the track. I think this is going to be a tough season for everyone in a lot of ways. But I think after 2-3 months of not racing, there's going to be nothing better than getting back into it and getting ready to mix it up. And to do it with someone like Rob and our team, the guys that we have together, it makes me really excited and eager to get back on track and get going.
Thank you very much for joining us, Spencer. Rob, I can only doff me cap to you. You have tackled your motor racing ever since I've seen you in a very structured and might I say sensible way. I think everybody would agree, and Jeremy and I have talked about you on the broadcast. You'll have heard it about the improvement in your driving has been extraordinary. We wish you the best. You're doing something and representing an awful lot of people who would do exactly the same as you if they had the opportunity and a modicum of your talent. Well done for bringing us some good news. Spencer Pumpelly, Rob Ferriol, thanks for joining us, mate. That was Rob and Spencer a couple of weeks ago making the announcement here on the Radio Show Limited network of channels on our midweek motorsport show over on RS1 every Wednesday at 3 o'clock Eastern. If you want to tune into that on Wednesday. Good news from all, to be honest, Jeremy Shaw, that we've got another team in and, expanding their operation within the IMSA paddock.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we've got these new teams is certainly, I think, speaks volumes for how effective the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship is as providing value for money in whichever way you look at that. So, no, it's very promising indeed. And as you talked about earlier on, there's several other teams that woulda, coulda, should have been here, and hopefully will be back again before too long as well. So, the future looks very, very bright.
Let's take an update from Shea Adam, who is keeping an eye on what's going on with the weather. We were put on a 30-minute delay some, 24 minutes ago, Shea, and there's movement at the Speedway, and it's movement of a good kind.
There are Floridians coming back to the grandstand, and I know that they're Floridians because you had to be to gain a ticket for this event. And more importantly, there are people coming back into the pit lane, so it looks like we're going to get things going here again soon. Can't really see too much of an improvement on the radar from what I'm looking at. There is still a yellow blob over at the racetrack area, over the airport to be more specific, but I've just been told that within 14 minutes we are going to be resuming our pre-race ceremony, so it looks like things are getting back to normal.
All good news from that point of view. Just hearing that, Jeremy, I think you've just heard the same thing. I'm looking at the race control feed. First of all, let's just go back to earlier on. It will be a pit lane start for car number 76. That should have been the pole sitter in GT Daytona for Compass Racing, and we're hearing that the green flag will be thrown in about half an hour's time, Jeremy. That's what I'm hearing. I think you've got the same news.
Yes, indeed. The 14 minutes, so that was a couple of minutes ago, to when the pre-race countdown will commence properly, and then 6:54 green flag is what I'm hearing. So that's certainly very, very good news. And we saw some people. We've got one stationary camera we can see right now, and the people certainly seem to be coming back into the grandstand. So that's certainly a very promising sign.
Yeah, very good indeed. Just 5,000 people allowed into that. Let's pick up on our Porsche keys to the race here in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. I'll take Jeremy first of all. The most obvious one here is this is not the end of January, so obviously the weather isn't the same, but it's also not 24 hours, Jeremy, so there's very little time if there are any mistakes made, like not getting out onto the pit lane in time for Compass Racing, to actually rectify that with pace on the track.
Yeah, that's right. It's going to be a lot more difficult to make up. They're now going to come back from the very, very back. They're going to catch the pack first of all, and then trying to make their way through. Clearly, they've got a fast car there, so that's the good news. There's not too many strategic options, a lot less strategic options open to the teams with such a short race such as this. But hey, it's what when you get knocked down, you've got to get back up again, and that's exactly what Compass Racing has got to do.
And as far as the long layoff, what the responsible adult calls the long pause, people are still shaking off the cobwebs. It's not even like a close season, Jeremy, because there's been no testing or very little testing for very few people up and down the pit lane, and they've had precious little running this weekend. Just a free practice session yesterday, the same this morning or earlier on today, then qualifying and the race. There could be an element of being a little bit race rusty here.
Yeah, there could well be. There's certainly, there's also been a couple of people that had problems this weekend so far. Number 77 car didn't get out at all yesterday. They had some contaminated fuel in that car, so weren't able to run at all yesterday. They were able to get themselves up to speed today, and then in the morning practice today, number 10 car had a tire failure. So those two teams, they've got a lot less track time than most of the others, so that's going to be difficult as well. But for the teams and for the teams themselves, they've been practicing so hard on their pit stops back in the shops, so I don't really expect too many dramas on the pit lane during the pit stops. But it's certainly going to be interesting out on track, and particularly with the conditions. This track, the banking will dry out very, very quickly, and the infield, well, we'll have to wait and see how hot and humid it is, and whether there's any more rain in the early stages, because certainly tyre management is going to be absolutely critical in these changeable conditions. I think I don't know whether it's going to be designated a wet race, in which case you have to start on wet tyres, but I think that is the case. I've certainly heard that the Mazdas are going to be starting on wet weather tyres, and when you make the change to slicks is going to be very, very important indeed.
And let's not forget that for Daytona Prototype International and for GT Daytona, it's wets or slicks. One slick compound, one wet compound. There's no choice. Everybody's provided with the same, and crucially, there's no intermediate. There are also no intermediates for GT Le Mans, but they do have a broader range of Michelin tyres to choose from in terms of the temperatures, the operating temperatures, and the window of operating temperatures with which those tyres work. So they could potentially go, if they have some, to softer, slick tyres, which, Jeremy, is not necessarily the worst thing, even if they're not cut slicks, which aren't allowed here. But if you've got heat in them, problem being there's no tyre warmers allowed here, but if you've got heat in them, you're probably no worse off on as long as there's not big standing water, on a soft slick tyre than you are on a wet weather groove tyre that you're going to burn off in a couple of laps.
Yeah, good point. And you're going to build heat into the tyres pretty quickly. I think go through the banking here, both ends of the racetrack and through the tri-oval as well. So you then got to try and keep the tyres warm through the twiddly bits in the infield until you get back up onto the banking again. Certainly the bus stop is going to be pretty tricky. Then that's probably going to be the most dangerous part of the track. But the horseshoes as well, it's going to be certainly very easy to make a mistake, so the drivers are got to be on their toes.
And finally, then, a bit of patience, perhaps, required. You might just wait. That old phrase, Jeremy, and it is a bit of a cliche, but all cliches only get to be cliches because there's an element of truth in them. It might well be that one or two drivers here have got to have a bit of patience and let the track come to them and their car, because the cars aren't set up for anything like where they're running, of course.
Probably not. Probably not. But the engineers certainly, they will have been poring over the weather data. They've been looking at the charts, at the radar, at all the forecasting materials they can get. And if they think that a goodly portion of the race is going to be in the wet, then they might set up the car for those conditions. Certainly looks like there might be rain later on in the evening. And if we're starting half an hour late already, that's going to be could potentially throw another spanner in the works towards the latter stage of this race. But there's certainly there's a lot of question marks flying around at the moment. It's good to see that all the teams now on the pit lane are getting everything ready to go now, and I'm sure there'll be a few tweaks to some of the. Well, they can't touch the cars, Shane, can they? You're right. So. No, it's going to be a crapshoot in these early stages. But you're right; they are going to have to be patient because it's going to be so easy to make a mistake.
That's our Porsche keys to the race. Shea, Adam, we were thinking that if it was a bit overcast, we might get into a wee bit of gloaming with sunset just before 8:30 this evening. We're pushed back a little bit further. We might have to put the lights on here. We might have to find a couple of 50-cent pieces for the lightning towers.
And hope that we have enough to just keep putting them in the coin slot and keep the lights on. Yeah, we're expecting
There's a big
sunset.
coin shortage over here at the moment.
Oh, that's even worse.
It's the rain. Nobody over here is using money. All the new 20, all the new 20-quid notes that have been printed. Nobody's ever seen them because nobody's taking them out a hole in the wall. It's like everybody's using contactless payment at the moment. So very, very odd indeed. Serious point though, Shea.
Yeah.
All right. It's never going to be properly darker around here. But we will get into some probably a little bit more than twilight now.
Well, yeah, sunset is expected at 8:27 p.m. local time. It's a 2-hour and 40-minute race. So if we go green at, say, 6:54, we're going to get quite a bit of running in the darker conditions. People haven't set up their headlights in any sort of special way. Now, the good news is for most of the people out on track, save for 3 cars, their headlights should still be set up for how they were at the Rolex. But we're not going to get any sort of lingering sunshine with the cloud cover. When the sun goes down, it's going to get dark really fast. And Daytona is not one of the darkest tracks we go to, but it's definitely something to think about, especially if you've never been here before in the dark. I'm thinking about poor Paul Holton, who's raced in the Michelin Pilot Challenge, but he's never seen anything like Daytona at night.
Better turn my mic back on again, hadn't I, if I'm going to start talking. Let's take a moment to pick up one or two interviews with drivers that we rather sensibly put together earlier on in race week. Here's a quick chat with Ricky Taylor.
For Ricky Taylor, one of the best tracks you get to go to every year is Daytona International Speedway. It's a circuit that has so much meaning to you and your family. The race in January didn't exactly go as planned for you and Elio, but now you get another opportunity at it in July. Does that make things even better that you sort of get to wash your hands of it in less than a year?
Yeah, it was a rough way to start the season. Unfortunately, we had to think about it for 5 months and weren't able to redeem ourselves. But if we are going to get another shot at it, it's nice to get to go back to Daytona. It'll be our 4th time racing there with the ARX, and we really want to win the 24-hour. So to go there, even with the 4th of July weekend, it's a historic weekend, not just a patriotic historical weekend, but in terms of sports car racing in America, we used to do the Brumos 250 and the Paul Revere 250 back in the day, and it's a race that has quite a bit of history. So a win at Daytona is a big thing, and if we can do it in July, it's better than nothing.
Yeah, it's going to be a different race, though, coming into it in July. Talk a little bit about the mental preparation that you and Elio have been going through, because both of you are Floridians, for better or for worse. I mean, Elio lives in Fort Lauderdale, and you're in Central Florida. That's advantage right there.
Yeah, I think everybody that comes to Florida knows it's going to rain at some point. So all those Englishmen and Europeans are well prepared for that. But we've been training a lot. We do a Monday night ride with Tony Kanaan on Zwift on our bikes, and riders from all around the world. We're all training together, and we get to train in the heat. So if it is a hot one in Daytona, and it seems like even more for Sebring, how brutal it's going to be with the heat. Hopefully we're prepared. But I mean, if you're not prepared, there's really no excuse. We've had coronavirus. You've been locked inside with nothing to do but train. So I think all the drivers are going to be physically fit. Whether that translates to the car and your sharpness behind the wheel, that's another thing. I know some of the European drivers already had the chance to get behind the wheel of some prototypes over there. But I feel 80% of the field will be on pretty level playing field, which I think will be interesting to see how everybody readapts to driving a prototype again.
Driving go-karts, has that helped you at all, or has that only made the lust to try and get back in a prototype even worse?
Yeah, you get the tastes for sure. You get that taste of what it's like and the speed. It's definitely the best tool you can do outside of driving the real car to keep you sharp and get your mind kind of working on driving style and how to go faster and things, and how the go-kart works compared to a race car. And so it's really good to stay sharp. It's not a replacement, but I feel like it's definitely been nice to get back into the karting, where over the past couple of years we haven't quite had enough time. So that's been fun, and hopefully some of that sharpness it'll help that rust when we get back to the real track.
Yeah, I had nothing but time throughout all this. And then when the schedule picks back up again, it really does kick into a different high gear. Are you excited about that there's going to be so much in such a relatively short period of time?
Yeah, I mean, that's every driver's dream, is to be racing every weekend. Unlike, the NASCAR, IndyCar, F1 guys, we only have 10 races a year. And so if they can put them in within, what's it going to be, about 4 or 5 months, that's pretty cool. I think it's going to be pretty grueling as much as we talk about the physical training in this second off season, I guess we could call it. You're really going to need to have built a good base, because you're not going to be able to train or get into any sort of routine after this. It's going to be just race after race after race, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be good, and the season will be over by the time before we know it.
Thanks, Ricky, and good luck to all of Team Penske.
Cool. Thank you.
It's Ricky Taylor talking to Shea Adam a little bit earlier on. We're live on RS2 IMSA Radio, and good to know that you're staying with us. We do have teams down on the pit lane now. I'm not sure when you're going to be getting pictures on the stream, I'm afraid. I thought they'd gone live 40 minutes ago, but apparently not, so my apologies for that. We're not in control of that at the moment. Let's quickly give you a rundown of the front of the starting grid with Acura Team Penske. Helio Castroneves leading out from Ollie Jarvis on the outside of the front row for Mazda Motorsports. The number 77 car had some fuel issues in the first practice on Friday. They were solidly fixed, but they couldn't quite steal the pole away. 0.24 of a second between first and second, and the same gap between second and third. Jonathan Bomarito will start the number 55 Mazda Motorsports, the Multimatic car, 3Ms there. And on the outside of row 2 will be Juan Montoya for Acura Team Penske. If we drop down into GTLM, it'll be Corvette that lock out the front row. You'd normally say that was a yellow out, wouldn't you? But it's the dark grey car with the yellow flashes on it that's on pole position for Ollie Gavin. Jordan Taylor will take the outside of the front row. They'll be followed up by a BMW and Porsche second row. The 24 Jesse Krohn BMW is the black of the two BMW M8 GTEs from Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, and Lawrence Vantour is the best of the Porsches in the 912, and that means the third row of GTLM, Bruno Spengler, already a winner of an IMSA title this year in the iRacing Pro Series when he was spectacular in the early part of the season, and despite having an absolute nightmare in the last race, had done enough to secure that title. He'll have Nick Tandy for company in the Porsche number 911. In GTD, it should have been Compass Racing with the McLaren 720S making its debut in the championship, the GT3 car for Compass. The 76 car, though, not on parade at the right time, so will start from the pit lane, is what we were told early on, and I don't think this delay will make that any easier for the Compass guys. Aaron Thielitz would have been on the outside of the front row for Aim Vassar-Sullivan. Will there be a gap, or will everybody just move up? Second row was due to be Robbie Foley for the Liquid Molly Turner Motorsport car, also with a bit of added stars and stripes on the 96 car this weekend. He was sharing row 2 with Aim Vassar-Sullivan's number 12 Lexus. Look down the field to the 10th place GTD, the number 22 Gradient Racing Acura NSX. It's a mainly blue car. Till Bechtelsheimer starts that. Remember, it has to be the bronze or the silver drivers who start the GT Daytona cars. Now, Till is a very experienced vintage racer and does love having what I would call intermediate or intermittent conditions. He is very good at feeling where the grip is, and I think he might pull his way forward just a little bit. This is a man who races an MG Midget in the Spa 6-hour race and has been well up the field in that against things like GT40s. So the Gradient Acura is one to watch. They were talking about all being in the same boat earlier on this week. I didn't think they knew that there was quite as much rain to come. Jeremy Shaw and Shea Adam are with me, John Hindhaugh, in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre here on RS2. It looked, Shea Adam, as if the teams are getting ready to go through the start procedures now.
Yep, they've gone down to the position where it's just one person with each car to help make sure that it all gets fired up and get things rolling, and then those crew members will move off toward the pit wall for the recon laps. There will be 2 of these formation laps, and at the end of the first one, there's going to be a little bit of a special something. Racing on the 4th of July, we're going to have 5 crew members from each team go out to the grass in the middle of the infield to sort of salute the cars as they drive by, so that'll be something fun to watch out for.
Okay. Jeremy, I don't see that this benefits anybody. It's made it all the teams have to make a tyre choice, open tyre choice now, so you can't start on slicks or wets. I have a feeling there will be a few people who will gamble on the slicks, but there's no real benefit for anybody here, is there?
Well, no, probably. But
at least the Vassar-Sullivan guys had a bit more time to get in, and Mike Shank the same, so he's had time to have a cup of coffee and settle themselves in.
The guy that maybe can benefit is the Compass car. They might be able to make a tyre choice change on the pit lane, although I think even then they've got to wait till after the green flag comes out, haven't they? So I think at this stage it's certainly going to be really tricky in these early stages, and the question is going to be who is on wets and who is on dries, and unfortunately we can't see because we don't have a particularly good view of the racetrack from where either of us are, so we're going to have to wait and see. I think it'll become fairly apparent though as soon as we get once the green flag comes out who is on wets and who isn't.
Shea Adam, having a listen to what's going on in the pit lane and down at Corvette Racing, there's been an interesting conversation going on, Shea.
Yeah, Tommy Miller just put out on Twitter, slicks or wets, 5 months of simulation data won't help you right now. It's a very good point to be made, but my thanks to John Edwards, who's currently sitting on the box for the Rolex winning number 24. Remember, this is championship leader. He says everyone in GTLM is on slicks, except for Nick Tandy in the 911.
Oh, so Nick's gone on full wets.
Correct.
Well, okay, that's interesting. We said the Porsches struggled at Sebring, Jeremy, and they certainly did when it was very wet indeed. But as soon as it dried up, they found their pace again, and that was, a year ago now. Good news is we have got cars rolling out of the pit lane for a couple of formation laps, so we're not that far away. Stand by your beds, rather, for those of you in Europe where where it's getting on to 1:45 in the morning, 1:45 to midnight in the UK. But the 2 hours and 40 minutes is on the clock. A few people tweeting at IMSA Radio to ask us, will it be a shortened race? No, it's time certain. It is still 2 hours and 40 minutes, and the LC500, normally aspirated V8 coupe safety car with 471 brake horsepower, turn all of the aids on that in this weather. Don't be a hero if you're the safety car driver at the moment. And they are being led round. Let's pick up a few final thoughts. Out of the pits, the WeatherTech 63, the Ferrari getting underway in that red, white and blue. Shea Adam, GTD, always going to be a street fight. This delay hasn't made any difference there, and a few people gambling on slick tyres.
Correct, and you're seeing in that category as well, more cars toward the front of the field put on slick tires, but apparently there are a few toward the back as well who are throwing the dice. Now, we do have 3 teams running in the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship for the first time this year, 2 of them for the first time period. One of those being the Hardpoint Racing Audi with Rob Ferriol. He's a guy who always does well in these mixed conditions. The other being Radiant Racing in their Acura. And as you mentioned, Phil Bechtelsheimer's a guy who's not afraid of a loss of traction as Rob Ferriol actually goes for a spin. So I think we know that Audi's on slicks.
And at the, oh yes, absolutely, Ferriol has gone around. That's going to be the problem, Jeremy, exactly so. And he has done a very good job in the silver and red Hardpoint car. Well, that just shows, does it not, Jeremy, how tricky it is out there. No tyre warmers allowed from pit stops, and certainly not from while they were sitting there in the pit lane. Oh, dear me, that was the slightest touch of the throttle as he was coming out of the international hairpin and just spun up the back wheels, and as soon as it went, there was no getting it back.
No, it went round very quickly. That's an eye-opener for Rob Ferriol, that's for sure. So, you know, it's going to be tricky out there. The good, yeah, you can see there's a great onboard shot there. He just puts his hand up. Whoa, that would have been a major wake-up call for Rob. But look, yeah, there's 2 more laps to get used to it here. This lap and 1 more before we go to green. It is going to be very, very treacherous, particularly there on the infield. But the banking is certainly going to dry out pretty quickly. You can still certainly see it's pretty damp up there right now, and it's going to be very, very tricky for these first few laps.
Shea, front of the field as they go past the pits. Who do you think? Which of the DPIs have the upper hand? Is it Acura? Is it Mazda? Is it Castro Nevison? Or is it Jarvis on the front row? Or somebody from further back? Joao Barbosa may be a bit further down than he would like to be in these conditions. Might he take a few risks early on?
Raced a lot at Daytona International Speedway. He's won 3 watches there as well. He'll be someone to watch off the start of this one, particularly trying to get around Gabby Chavez, filling in for Felipe Nasser this weekend. But my eyes are going to be on those Mazdas. How are they going to work together to get around Elio Castroneves? Nobody knows Florida weather better than Floridians, though, and there are 2 of them in that number 7 Acura Team Penske car. So that's going to be a tall order for Ollie Jarvis and Jonathan Bomarito.
And Jeremy Shaw, as we're still following in behind the LC500 safety car. I just wonder if they might actually start behind the safety car here and do a single file start, Jeremy.
I would doubt it, but I haven't heard to the contrary. But I doubt it. But it's you could just see that as the cars were coming through turn 2 there. Of course, when they came out onto the track initially, they didn't come through this section of the track, through the kind of the S's and followed turn 1 before the East Horseshoe, and the track there is very, very slippery indeed, and it's going to be tall order. I hear that the Mazdas are on wet weather tyres. That's what I've been told. I don't know about anybody else at the moment at the front of the field in the prototypes, but these guys are certainly going to have their wits about them, and it's going to be very, very easy to throw it all away within moments of the start here. So the first couple of laps are going to be really interesting.
That's Jeremy Shaw. You heard the voice of Shea Adam live from the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Nick Tandy, the only one in the GT Le Mans field, we are led to believe, on treaded Michelin wet weather tyres. The whole of the GTD field, we are told, has gone on to scrubbed slick tyres in the pit lane. The car that should have been on pole position, qualified on pole position, but then didn't get into the pit lane on time. That is the 76 of Compass Racing, and Corey Fergus will be cursing his luck, although he's saving a couple of laps of fuel here as they head out on to the circuit, and it does look as though they're forming up 2 by 2. So they will come round then for a proper green flag start. This could be very interesting when you put the hammer down. The lights are out on the LC500 Lexus Coupe safety car, not using certainly the top half of its new 10-speed direct shift gearbox, which changes gear in 0.12 of a second. Jeremy?
Yeah, you know, for the Corey Fergus, yes, he's going to save a couple of laps of fuel, but he's had no opportunity to get any heat at all into those Michelin tyres, so that's going to be even more difficult for Corey Fergus starting from the pit lane, John.
Yeah, but he'll have time to pick his way through the inevitable carnage that'll happen, obviously. He'll be able to see what's happened in front of him. I remember once doing a race at Croft where I stalled and didn't get off the line, but managed to pick my way through a huge incident that happened in Clairvaux, and all of a sudden find myself in the midfield. So sometimes it can work for you. There's lighter patches on the banking to turn 3 and 4 as Elio Castro Neves is about to bring the field under his control as the safety car will pull into the pit lane this time around. 2 hours and 40 minutes on the clock. It's a time certain race. The revs will rise in a moment or two time as we resume motor racing at the World Centre of Racing on July the 4th. Happy birthday, the United States of America, and the green flag is in the air, and the WeatherTech 240 round 2 of the WeatherTech SportsCar Championship for IMSA is underway. Castro Neves jumps out into a very good lead indeed. Down the inside, it is the number 10 that was trying to make the move and then got pushed back. The two Masters running very, very close indeed together. They almost picked each other up at the second of the Acura Team Penske's with Juan Montoya behind the wheel. It is right there as well, and they are side by side. Remember, the Acura's in two, the Masters in 2 separate colours. The dark red car is the number 55, and Montoya looks to have got that done. Gets alongside through the dogleg on the infield for the first time. So Montoya is in 3rd position. Just ahead of Bomarito, it's Castro Neves who leads out by about a second. He had a really good start at the front of the field, down the short chute, before he heads off onto the banking for the first time. Block has started to run. There's a little bit of spray in the air. Now, which Porsche is that that's come to the front? It's Nick Tandy. Nick Tandy has come through to the front of the GT Le Mans field. He started on slicks and then he goes wide before he goes on the backing. So all of that hard work done on the infield. But look at the Corvette sliding alongside him. That was Jordan Taylor, who just couldn't get the power down. Now Tandy on the banking, slips back into second. Here comes the BMW, the dark car. It's the number 24 of Jesse Kron in behind him. In fact, no, it's the 912, excuse me. It's Vantour.
It is Vantour. I think he slid wide at turn 1 as well, so I think maybe both Porsches are on, perhaps both Porsches are on wet tyres. I don't know, maybe it is just a one-off. If so, it's a brilliant first lap by Lawrence Vantour. Nick Tandy, of course, is making hay while the sun doesn't shine, and he's running well in front of the field in GTLM, but it's not going to be long, I think, before the slick tyres are going to be the tyres to have on this very, at the moment, treacherous racetrack.
9-1-2 back to the point, and Lawrence Vantour and Porsche leads. Here comes the BMWs. Jesse Kron in the dark of the cars through the tri-oval, down into the tricky braking area of the transition into turn 1. And Vantour this time gets his braking just about right. You've got to drift all the way over to the right-hand side before hauling it back at the top 4. They're getting the red GTLM from Bruno Spengler in 5th position. Hang on a second. Tandy's gone. Tandy has absolutely cleared off. That's 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th, and Tandy's disappeared. I've got him scored in 7th position overall, Jeremy.
Yeah, he was about 8 seconds clear at the end of that first lap.
Amazing first lap from Tandy.
Yeah, well, of course, he's on wet by the tyres, so he's taking full advantage of that. but everybody else there is slithering around. In GTD, Aaron Thielett's. What's interesting though about GTLM, Nick Tandy's gone from last to first. Oliver Gavin's gone from first to last. Side by side, an Acura and a Mazda down into the bus stop in GTD. Aaron Thielett leads for Vassar Solomon.
So early doors as out comes Corey Ferguson, the Compass racing car, as he heads into the fray, and he got a drive-through penalty for the pit lane start. So not only did he have to stop at the back, he had to then come in for a drive-through for not being on parade at the right time. So through goes Castro Neves, 1:47.4, leads by 1.093 seconds. Then the battle for second, third and fourth. Well, Jarvis has just pulled away a little bit from the battle from third and fourth, and a little bit over-ambitious from Juan Montoya.
Yeah, Siniru there for JPM in the number 6 Acura, so he's going to lose a little bit of ground. But boy, this is great stuff. This is really tricky right now. And the GTLM car, Nick Tandy, he's run up amongst the prototypes.
Well, he's got form for this, Jeremy. Remember back to Petit Le Mans a few years ago, albeit with a different tyre supplier, but he passed the whole DPI field about 4 times to win the race, because every time there was a yellow flag, remember, he got put back behind them all, but he drove around them with the Michelin wet weather tyres and won the race overall. That car, there was a bet between himself and Patrick Piles, then co-driver, full-time co-driver, and Frank Stefan Palliser, who now heads up the whole of Porsche 911 road cars, that if they won the race overall, he'd give them the race car, sell them the race car, I should say, and Patrick Piles still has that car, so they've got form for that. Being told that Tandy was already leading by turn 1. He went right the way around the outside of everybody and surged into the lead using the additional grip of the Michelin tyres. Confirmed now from Shea Adam that the Banter car in second place, which is being chased very closely by Jesse Kron now in third for BMW, then British Mengler, then the 2 Corvettes. The 912 is on slick tyres, as I think, Jeremy, I think it's fair to say the rest of the GTLM field is on slick tyres. Only Nick Tandy took the chance, and he's got to now get out ahead of all of this and basically try and get a good gap. He's in the 7th position overall. He's put the two of the Cadillacs in between him and the rest of the GTLM field.
Yeah, Ron Briscoe's really struggling right now. He's losing a lot of ground. Nick Tandy on the last lap was 5 seconds quicker than the rest of the field in GTLM. Still waiting for the GTLM cars to come across the line here to complete their third lap. Here they come now. This battle for second place with the Lawrence Van Tour just holding on ahead of Jesse Krohn. They come across the line there, 1 minute 57 for Van Tour, 1:54 for Tandy. So already the gap was 5 seconds on the previous lap. It was more than that on the first lap. 5 seconds on the last lap, now down to 3. The gap between the pace on slicks or on wets in GTLM.
What about GT Daytona? Tyre update from Shea Adam.
Well, I know for sure that John Potter in the Magnus GRT Lamborghini did run on wet tires from the start of the race. Still waiting to find out about the rest of the field, but I can tell you that many more of the cars further down, including the 96 Turner Motorsport BMW for Robbie Foley, the 16 Wright Motorsport car for Ryan Hardwick, the 22 Gradient Racing for Till Bechtelsheimer, they're all on slick tires. So it looks like right now John Potter is leading by way of he being the only car in the class who started on those wet tires.
Thank you, Shea. It was always going to be a bit of a gamble. Battle for second in GT Le Mans, and down the inside coming on to the speedway. Fantastic exit from the BMW of Jesse Krohn, and he's already passed as they were in the middle of the run between turns 1 and 2. Now, the Porsche very good on the brakes at the bus stop, so yes, he's just defended a little bit over the curbs. They're getting braver, Jeremy. They're starting to hit the curbs at the bus stop, which tells me that they're starting to get a bit of heat into those Michelin slick tyres. So, coming down already to nearly 10 minutes completed. Castro Neves still number 7 from Mazda, number 77. Then Jonathan Bomarito's another 7/10 behind, so that's closing up. Then there's 2.5 seconds back to Montoya. And then there's 6.5 seconds back to Chris Miller, who's doing a cracking job in the bright yellow number 85. With GT Le Mans, Nick Tandy well ahead of everyone else, but he's just been repassed by Gabby Chavez in the number 31 prototype, which that may just mean that we're already seeing a drop-off of performance with the wet weather tyres on Nick Tandy's car. We saw Jesse Kron going up into second. Vantor is still third for Porsche, then Spengler for BMW, then the 2 Corvettes. John Potter leading, Aaron Thielitz leading for Ian Foster-Sullivan by 2.1 seconds. For Lexus ahead of Lamborghini number 44 for John Potter, then Misha Goldberg for Heinrich Racing, and the second of the Acuras, then Frankie Montecalvo for the second of the Lexus, then Robbie Foley for Turner Motorsport in 5th position. Then a couple of seconds back to Gar Robertson, who's doing a nice job in 6th position in the Riley Motorsports car. Jeremy Shaw. Oh, lost Jeremy for the moment. I'll get back to him in a second. So, relatively clean opening and already a pit stop. Shea Adam.
That is a tire change for Juan Montoya and the number 6 Acura Team Penske from wets to slicks for Montoya. So that helps explain why he was so strong at the start of this race, making moves on the Mazdas. But now it's going to be a real interesting test because Montoya is one of the best at car control in the pit lane. How's he going to fare out there on changeable conditions?
Well, yeah, and that also means that Nick Tandy's tyres will be going off as well. His last lap at 154.4, Jesse Kron at 153, so that is crossover. We're already on the crossover after just 5 laps of racing. And so the gamblers, Castro Neves among them, who went for the wet tyres to start with, Jeremy, it looked good for a little while, but now they've paid the price and they will have to change.
Yeah, that's right. We've already seen a couple of cars in there. The number 6 car leads the way with Juan Pablo Montoya. And I'm sure the 2 Cadillacs of Ryan Briscoe and Gabby Chavez, they would have started on wet weather tyres. Chavez is already half a minute behind Helio Castro Neves. Ryan Briscoe is another 10 seconds behind him. But they're going to lose. That is going to pay off for them within a few laps time, I'm sure. The last lap around for the leader was a 148.0, and the leader's lapping pretty consistently about 148. We'll have to wait and see what lap times the slick-tired cars do. At the moment, we're still waiting for the number 85 and 31, 31 and number 10 to complete their 6th lap, because they're a long way behind the rest of the pack at the moment.
At IMSA Radio, if you want to.
There he is. There's a new purple section. Excuse me, John. I was hoping it was going to come a little bit quicker there. But Gabby Chavez, new purple time there. Fastest lap of the race. 146.6 for Gabby Chavez in 6th position. That's the good news. The bad news is he's 30 seconds behind Helio Castro Neves. But Pablo Montoya, having made that pit stop, he's a long way further back as well. So great early stint there for Gabby Chavez to keep that car under control. And about 10 seconds behind him, I believe, also on dries, it's Ryan Briscoe.
Shea Adam, another pit caller, out from wets on the slicks, this time in GT Le Mans.
Just noticed that Nick Tandy's name popped up as being in the pit lane, so that would be a tire change for him as well, falling down right now on his out lap to 22nd overall. But keep in mind, this is a guy who is in the top 10 at the start of this race. Wonder how long it'll take before he gets back up there.
Well, it was an interesting thing to do, and from the back of the grid, I suppose there was not much to lose, and it certainly looked good while it lasted, but of course that pit stop will drop him down, and now he's right in the middle of the GT Daytona field, and he's got to do it again. What is interesting for me, Jeremy, is what that does to the fuel and how many more stops he has to take. And here comes another Penske into the pit lane, and it is the number 7 car. It's Castro Neves coming into the pit lane. Shea Adam is watching for us here on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV.
With also just see a quick splash of fuel for Elio and 4 new Michelins. That was a wet tire that came off, then a slick tire that went on. So they're going to splash and fill them up as much as they can. We're still in a position where the strategy to make it to the end on 3 stops is almost out of the question. But Elio's dropped off the air jacks and sent back out. Now he's got to get heat in those slick tires.
Yeah, that's a good point. He said no tyre warmers allowed, so his first few laps are going to be extremely difficult and potentially, Jeremy Shaw, very treacherous indeed. We've seen people 5, 6, 7 seconds a lap sometimes in the cold of the night at Daytona for a lap or so, all being a little bit tippy-toe.
Yeah, I presume he's allowed to weave that car around on pit lane, is he?
He didn't come out the
sure about that,
he didn't come out the fast lane. He was in the fast lane, so he was weaving around within the confines of the white line. So I think that's fine. I think if he was weaving backwards and forwards, he might have been getting a bit of a talking to. But I think he's all right doing that. Meantime, Corey Fergus has, of course, dropped. Oh, he spun it. Corey Fergus has spun it. I was just about to say he's dropped off the lead lap in class, and now I know why. Going on to the high banks on turn number 5, check that, turn number 6. He just lubed the car a moment or 2 ago, so he started a lap down, and now he's 2 laps away from the overall leader, but off the lead lap in class was the point that I was trying to make. Into the pit lane, Jonathan Bomarito from 2nd position. Shea Adam.
He was in the lead when he came into the pits, but you're right, John. He handed it over, and now Oliver Jarvis is leading in the 77 Mazda, the one that missed the entire session yesterday. Jonathan also going on to slick weather tires, so everybody is starting to fall in line. Also onto the pit lane a bit further back is Joao Barbosa, the number 5 Mustang sampling Cadillac. He too is switching from wet to slicks. Gabby Chavez still out there, by the way, in that 31 Action Express car for Whalen Engineering. That red and white Cadillac did start on slicks, so Gabby's going to climb up as everyone else continues to dive into the pits. More brilliant strategy from them.
Nick Tandy still 3 seconds away from a decent time in GTLM, really struggling to get the slick tyres that he put on the Porsche number 911 up to temperature and pressure, and went wide last time round into turn 1. Meantime, his teammate Lawrence Vanter has got a Corvette for company, and that was the number. Well, Jordan Taylor's gone past him, so that has to be number 3 that's behind him. So that's just swapped back again a moment or 2 ago. Jordan Taylor was ahead, so Vanter has just gone back ahead of Jordan Taylor. Yeah, absolutely. And Ollie Gavin is there behind. Joao Barbosa comes out in the pits. Chris Miller comes into the pits. And this has been an absolute lottery in the front of the field. Jeremy, we said in our Porsche keys to the race that the weather may send a bit of a curveball. Well, there's been a number of different strategies played here, and we still really don't know which one's going to pay off.
Oh, no. Starting on slicks is going to pay off, no question about that. I'm just amazed that Oliver Jarvis didn't come in on the last lap. I mean, Juan Pablo Montoya, his last lap was a 1:43.
Jarvis is in now.
Jarvis is 8, yeah. Well, he's in a lap too late, because that's going to cost him probably 8 or 10 seconds compared to everybody else. His teammate came in last time around, and he's going to come out with a handy advantage over the number 77. So finally, they made their last car then to make the call. They now pulled Gabby Chavez into the lead of this race.
9 lap stint then for Jarvis, and I just wonder what that might do to how the rest of the race breaks down. 2 hours and 22 minutes of the 2 hours and 40 still to go. We're live from the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Shea Adam watching the pits for us. Jeremy Shaw and John Hindhaugh looking at what has been a very, very interesting opening stanza, at least for this second round of the WeatherTech SportsCar Championship at Daytona International Speedway. Big drop of rain in between qualifying and the start of the race. 45 minutes delay to proceedings with lightning in the area. And now it's Gabby Chavez by 12 seconds over Ryan Briscoe, who was struggling mightily early on, but has manfully, Jeremy Shaw, managed to keep going. And those two at the front of the field have not had to stop. They're the only two of the top 5 that have not stopped 4 tyres. So they must have started on slicks and just had to tough it out.
Indeed. Yes, and they've done a brilliant job, and particularly Gabby Chavez. Look, he hasn't driven a DPI car much. The last race he did was Petit Le Mans in 2018. He did 2 races in 18 for the Action Express team. He did Watkins Glen and Petit Le Mans. This is the first time he's hopped into this car since. He only got the call on Thursday at lunchtime to come down here. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant effort by Gabby Chavez, former Indy Lights champion, and he's showing that he deserves an opportunity at this level in sports cars as well. Really, really good run by him. Ryan Briscoe, he's just set the fastest lap of the race, we had done. It's now been reset by Juan Pablo Montoya by a huge amount, but Ryan Briscoe is still 12 seconds behind, and Juan Pablo Montoya is another 24 seconds back in 3rd place with 10 laps down.
Looks like the Corvettes are beginning to come on some as well. Now up into 3rd position for Jordan Taylor, chasing down the BMW. He's only 0.7 of a second behind Jesse Krohn in 2nd. Bruno Spengler, who leads by 2.5 seconds. And Ollie Gavin has just taken the Porsche again and was having a good look at the BMW ahead of it as well. So that that was the yellow car that was looking at. That was Taylor who was looking at the BMW. But it does seem as if the Corvettes took a little longer to get their slick tyres up to working temperature. But now they are certainly moving forward, and their lap times are very impressive. What's Tandy doing? Yes, that's more like it. Tandy, 1:46.9. But the fastest lap of the race, Ollie Gavin, last time around in GT Le Mans, 1:46 flat from the tall fella. That's in the dark grey and yellow Corvette C8, I remember, mid-engined car for Corvette this year. And Gavin beginning to pick up the pace. Remember our Porsche keys to the race. We talked about patience. We talked about letting the racetrack come to you. And even without Dan Binks, Jeremy Shaw in the Corvette Racing pits, I'm sure there's been sage advice going backwards and forwards between the 4 car and the respective pits, and saying, guys, listen, I know it's only a sprint race, but we've still got 2 hours and 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, these guys know how to win races. They know what strategies they need to call, and I think the Corvette drivers, they don't have much experience of these cars really in the wet, not as much as the Porsche drivers do, that's for sure. So it was a bit of a steep learning curve, I think, in the early stages there, particularly for Oliver Gavin, but now he's fully into his stride, but he's quite a long way behind. Well, no, he's not actually a long way behind. The first, Bruno Sprenger's got a couple of seconds lead over Jesse Krohn, but then right behind Jesse Krohn are the 2 Corvettes of Jordan Taylor and Oliver Gavin. So this reset fastest lap again, and behind him is Lawrence Vanthoor as well, and then Joao Barbosa trying to work his way back through the field. New fastest lap of the race on this time for Juan Pablo Montoya. His last lap 138.7 for Montoya. The race leader on this lap 141. Just has gone across the line again as Gabby Chavez in that race leading Whelen Corvette Cadillac, 141.3.
And into the pit lane, John Porter hasn't been able to make those wet weather tyres last for his whole stint. He's got to do 45 minutes in that category, and he is going to struggle to stay on the lead lap in the category when he comes out of the pit lane. T-Litz last time around a 150.7, 150.6 for Frankie Montecalvo in second. The 2 Lexus RCF GT3s, Jeremy, relishing these in-between conditions, and we've seen so many times in the past, and I know they've done lots of work on it, they've struggled to keep the back tyres under that Lexus. Well, they're not having any problems here at the moment, at least. they seem to be doing very well indeed.
Yeah, they do. Really, just an excellent stint by Aaron Telitz and Frankie Montecalvo too. He's only about 3 or 4 seconds, no, a bit more than that, about 10 seconds behind him in second position. But both those two guys do a really, really good job. Misha Goldberg too. Hats off to Misha in the Heinricher Racing with MSR, with Kerberger, Jane in the Acura caliber 57. He's running a very handy third place, only 3 or 4 seconds behind Montecalvo. Similar gap back to Robbie Foley in the Turner Motorsport BMW. So the leaders in GTD are fairly well spread out, but the battle is really on very much so in GTLM at the moment, with the lead for Bruno Spengler is actually extended on the last lap. He turned a good lap last time around in Bruno Spengler, his best lap of the race so far.
But Jeremy, there is a change because Ollie Gavin's now gone past the BMW of Jesse Kron into third position, and he's dragged Van Thor with him as well. So it's now Spengler from Jordan Taylor in second for Corvette, for Ollie Gavin in third for Corvette. So we were mentioning a couple of laps ago the Corvettes are starting to come on. There's a much lighter coloured line, a drier line, even on the run down to the bus stop, which is where that battle for third, fourth and fifth is right now. Corvette versus BMW versus Porsche. There's not 4 cars lengths between any of those, and just ahead of them the bright yellow a Corvette of Jordan Taylor, who is now nearly 4 seconds behind Spengler, who has, as Jeremy was saying, rather cleared out there. That's been a good opening stint so far by Bruno Spengler, Jeremy.
Yeah, it certainly has. A very good first stint by Bruno Spengler. But this battle here is very much on now for second, third and fourth. They go across the line one more time. That's now 13 laps completed by the GTLN leaders, same as the overall leaders. As Juan Pablo Montoya, by the way, just reset fastest lap again on this lap, 137.5. But this 4-car train here, the 2 Corvettes have got their way. Both of the past Jesse Krohn and Lawrence Van Toy. He's going to look to the inside at the East Horseshoe as well.
Just a couple of people asking about tyre choice. All of the GTD drivers have, or teams have exactly the same compound and construction of Michelin wet and slick tyres, the same for DPIs. The only choices are for the GT Le Mans cars. Those cars have a wider choice of Michelins, but the DPIs and the GTDs are all on the same tyres. There are no choices for those. They have gone to the slightly, or the compound that works better in slightly warmer conditions here. That seems to be working quite well now, because even though it's been damp, as the 2 Corvettes go at it in the knee-seat battle for Corvette racing, and Ollie Gavin, who has been the fastest man in GT Le Mans the last couple of 3 laps, now goes into second position. But even though, Shianam, and you know this very well, being a Florida native, even though it's been wet, even though we've had a thunderstorm, it is not cold. These are not the temperatures we would have seen even in fine weather in January.
No, the current conditions in the ambient, so in the air, 82 outside, but it's still 100% humidity. So it's not exactly a nice place to be right now. It's very heavy air, very dense, and makes breathing even a little bit more labored for the cars and the crew. It's definitely nothing like what we've ever experienced in January.
At IMSA Radio, if you want to get in touch. And the leading GTDs pick their way left and DPIs, excuse me, pick their way left and right through the GTD battle, which is Robbie Foley and Matt McMurray having a scrap for 4th and 5th position. The Turner Motorsport BMW M6 in the liquid moly colours again for this season, but with added stars and stripes for the 4th of July. There's no missing the Auto Nation Heinricher racing with Meyer Shank Acura NSX for Misha Goldberg, who's been doing a cracking job. And then behind Robbie Foley, as I say, the Meyer Shank Racing number 86 for Acura. And again, side by side, down onto the infield, 55 dark red Mazda in through turn 1, looking for 4th position. That's Jonathan Bonarigo and Elio Castroneves as they go past John Potter in the number 44. No Paul Miller Racing this weekend. The championship leaders coming in here, missing the next couple of races at the very least. And Jeremy Shaw you can tell this is a sprint race. There's nobody hanging off here. There's nobody waiting. This is absolutely daggers drawn right from the drop of the green flag.
Yeah, absolutely right. Brilliant job by Gabby Chavez. Can't tell you how impressed I am with Gabby Chavez. He's just turning his fastest laps now. Each of his last, well, every lap has been quicker than the previous one. His last lap was at 1:38.5, which is not much. It's actually quicker than Montoya, just about the same as Montoya last time around, who's in third place. This is the battle, though, for fourth that we're watching right now, with the number 7 car was under increasing pressure from Jonathan Bomarito. We talked about number 77 car, Oliver Jarvis, was sort of weaving his way through the GT3 cars on the banking last time around. But Jarvis, that later pit stop cost him as much as 10 seconds to the number 55 car. But he's now made up a goodly portion of that, and Oliver Jarvis now is one of the quickest cars on the track. But Gabby Chavez in that number 31 Whelen Engineering Cadillac is running absolutely brilliant. Another quicker lap there, 1:38.1. Gabby Chavez this time around, a gap back to Ryan Briscoe in second place now, 17 seconds.
Call it 18 actually. A couple of new fastest laps as Ollie Jarvis takes the new fastest lap of the race, 1:36.5. A couple of new GT fastest lap. Tandy's finally got into the groove in the 911. He's just done a 44.8. And we said in our Porsche keys to the race, don't make mistakes because you haven't got time to recover for them. A fairly fundamental one from Compass Racing, and Corey Fergus should have started on pole position after a brilliant qualifying session in the debuting McLaren. Didn't get out of the pit lane in time, had to start from the pit lane, then take a drive through, but has just done the fastest lap of GT Daytona, 1:49.0 for that new McLaren, new to this category, McLaren 720S GT3. Corey Fergus goes faster again as he crosses the stripe on the tri-oval underneath where our commentary box is normally, the 1:48.398 now, and Ollie Gavin now takes the fastest GT Le Mans. Conditions improving all the time. Gavin's GT Le Mans lap 1:44.8, and the battle is certainly on between Robbie Foley and Matt McMurray. They are scrapping over 4th and 5th position as they head out on to the banking. McMurray wanted it rainy and Foley wanted it dry. Neither of them really got what they wanted, and for the moment the BMW pulls a good 10 cars lengths away from the NSX. GTD still led by Aaron Tielitz, Abe Vassar Sullivan by nearly 9 seconds from his teammate Frankie Montecalvo. Then it's 4.5 seconds back to Misha Goldberg. He's doing a great job for Acura in the 57 car. Then this battle between Foley and McMurray. Also somebody I just want to point out is Gar Robinson, who made up a few positions earlier on, but now he's looking at the back of Till Bechtelscheimer, who's in the groove in the number 22. That's the debuting team, Gradient Racing. We've seen some elements of that team before as CJ Wilson racing the Acura NSX GT3. Has been campaigned by this team, but not in IMSA competition, and they're in for the Sprint Race Championship. Bechtelscheimer's picked his way through, then into 7th position in class, and he's only half a second or so behind Cooper McNeil and Scuderia Corsa Ferrari, and he'll take that. Cooper's got a huge amount of experience in hand over Bechtelscheimer, so Till just got to keep it going now, around about 50 minutes for a stint for those GT Daytonas, Jeremy. And what it's going to be about now as the track dries up and you get through your fuel and you get towards the end of the tyre life is just making sure you get through to your first pit stop.
Yeah, that's right. And at this stage, it certainly has been a good run by Till. And from that onboard from Gar Robinson, we can see that battle between Cooper McNeil and Till Bechtelscheimer right ahead of him. So there's a good battle. That was for 6th, 7th and 8th in GTD. So there's battles all the way around this racetrack, except for out front where Gabby Chavez has now got 17 seconds. He lost a little bit of ground, I think, getting his way through some traffic on that last lap, but he's still well clear of Ryan Briscoe. And Juan Pablo Montoya, having been the first of the DPI cars to make the switch from wet weather tyres to dry weather tyres, he's still about 11 seconds behind the second place cars, Montoya, and he's really not making much ground. That gap has been pretty much steady for the last 4 laps. So now Ryan Briscoe is comfortably in second place. Juan Pablo Montoya is in third. Jonathan Bomarito, he is definitely inching closer to the Acura in the Mazda car number 55 in fourth position, having got his way, found a way past Elio Castroneves, and he's inching closer to Juan Pablo Montoya.
Thanks to colleagues at Michelin. Track temperature 26 degrees Celsius, air temperature a muggy 29 degrees Celsius. New fastest lap of his race for Ryan Briscoe last time around, 38.0. Very impressed with that. He's fought his way through a very difficult opening stanza of the race. Meantime, Bruno Spengler leads in GT Le Mans as he drops down to turn 1 again, and what is now looking like a full dry line at the very least as his teammate comes into the pit lane. Jesse Krohn then dives in, and that is after, well, at the end of 17 laps as he comes into the pit lane. I would say that's a little bit early for a regular stop, Jeremy, but they might well see their strategies here.
No, I think from here he can get to the end on 1 more pit stop.
Okay.
So I think that'll be the strategy there. There's just over 2 hours remaining. If he reckons he can go an hour, and if there's any weather towards the end of the race, perhaps the race will be shortened in any case. So it's certainly going to be a bit of a stretch, but I'm sure that is what the team, unless there's a problem, I'm sure that is what the team is thinking. They can get to the end from here with just 1 more pit stop. In the meantime, we saw the teammate car, Bruno Spengler, still leading, but that gap to Oliver Gavin now down to 2.2 seconds. They came across the line last time. And Oliver Gavin on the previous lap has set the new fastest lap of the race in GTLM, 1:44.7.
Shea Adam was watching that stop. I didn't see a driver change there for the 24 BMW, Shea.
Correct, it is Jesse Krohn who stayed aboard that car. They did do tires, though. I'm just checking to see whether it was 2 or 4. It looked to me like those were more slick tires going on that car. There's no more rain in the radar. But Jesse Krohn has been spending quite a bit of time in Florida training and living here for the quarantine period. And indeed, it was 4 tires. Thank you very much to John Edwards, who confirms 3 stop for them for the race. But yes, he has been spending his time with Tony Villander. So the 2 Finnish drivers training together. And Tony even said that trying to live and train with Jesse, it's like having a dog. It's somebody with boundless amounts of energy who never seems to get tired. So Jesse Krohn definitely will not be prized out of the car after a single stint.
Well, there we are. The first of the quote-unquote scheduled stops, albeit perhaps a little bit tactical as we were talking about breaking the race up into a length whereby you get to do your last pit stop first. Is never a bad thing to do, and that could be exactly what BMW Team RLL have done there with Jesse Krohn. He's dropped back down into 6th position. Now remember, that takes it off kilter with everyone else, but Tandy, he's putting in good lap times at the moment, and he's got a good 5 laps more fuel in the tank than anyone else. So when the leaders come in, remember Tandy started on wet weather tyres. That didn't work for him, Germany, but he will be able to go a little bit deeper into the race here, which might help him out for a bit of track position after the next set of green flag stops for the rest of GT11.
Yeah, but he's already 40 seconds behind the leaders in GT11. Nick Tandy having elected to start on those slick tyres. I think he's made an extra stop. I don't think that's really going to pay into his favour. New fastest lap.
Sorry, he started on wets, didn't he?
Yes, is that what I said? Oliver Jarvis just said new fastest lap of race 1:35.755 for car number 77. He's now closed right up onto the tail of his teammate. So as now we see Gabby Chavez working his way through some traffic, putting another lap on the 44 GRT Magnus car. Now we go on board with Oliver Jarvis, who is here we are, the 2 Mazdas coming nose to tail almost, just a few car lengths between them as they sweep across the start-finish line to complete lap 21.
Fabulous stuff. This is why we love multi-class racing. This is why we love endurance racing. Choices that have been made at the beginning of the race with weather not being cut and dried, or even cut and wet, actually, as the situation was. Not everybody made the same decisions, but ultimately we will get to a part of this race where it all comes down to the last pit stop, and that's where we're going now, and we're going there at a very quick speed indeed as we come down to 2 hours to go. The first 40 minutes has absolutely flown over, and the BMW, remember, of Jesse Kroll, the number 24, has already stopped at the end of lap number 17, so keep that one in the back of your mind. At the front of the field, Gabby Chavez from Wheelan Engineering has had his lead cut to about 13.5 seconds as Ryan Briscoe's found a little bit of pace from the Konica Minolta Cadillac number 10 in second place. Then Juan Montoya and into the pit. I was just about to say, are we going to see it? So this will be at the end of the 21st lap. Here comes the Wheelan Engineering car to its waiting through, and Shea Adam is watching the stop.
It's Pipo time. Pipo Durrani jumps off the pit wall with his feet insert in hand, and this is a moment that he's been waiting a very long time for. It was a rough race to the Wheelan Engineering crew back at the Rolex 24 Hours. They've had to wait 5 months to try and set things right. Also into the pit lane, the Rolex 24 Hour winners in the Konica Minolta Cadillac. That is Ryan Briscoe bringing the car in. Let's see if there's a bright, shiny yellow helmet. No, not yet. Doesn't look like there's a driver change for them, but the driver change is still going on as the fuel goes in. Pit 31, no time lost. They pull the probe out. People gets going in a nice smoky burnout as it's still fuel and tires for the Konica Minolta Cadillac. Indeed, they did start on sprint, so that was a very impressive performance from Ryan Briscoe as well. Beating him out of the pit lane, though, will be Pipo Durrani. So let's stand back to the fences a little bit more in case they are trackside. This does mean that Juan Pablo Montoya is way down
by 3.7 seconds or thereabouts. Both of the pit stops very, very sharp indeed from Konica Minolta Cadillac DPIV Racing and Wheelan Engineering Racing, if you prefer the 31 midpoint car and the 10 black car. Very easier for me to say. Back out into the race then, Pipo Durrani, one of the few drivers of a Cadillac who hasn't been complaining about his straight line speed. He's outguns the 10. That's Pipo. He just doesn't think about things like that. He will carry the car from that in. And he is back into the race. Bomarito has just 4/10 of a second over Jarvis in third, then 10 seconds on thereabouts back to Castro Neves, and another 13 seconds back to 5th position. Cloud Barbosa for the dark blue number 5, yellow Mustang sampling Cadillac DPI. Two Masters battle across the tri-oval and down into turn 1. Good to see both of these cars in rude health. That wasn't the case earlier on. Didn't see the 77 car at all on Friday with a very strange fuel issue that I'm sure Multimatic, who have taken over full control of that programme, will want to get to the bottom of that issue.
It was a fuel problem, a problem with the fuel, I should say. For some reason, one of their fuel churns was contaminated, so that was a problem there. They got that fixed out there, and at least they know what the problem was. It was solved with some fresh fuel, and now those cars are running fast. And both of the two Mazdas now, they're tracking down Pablo Montoya is in the lead of this race, of course, because he came in after 5 laps, so he can probably go another 3 or 4 laps before he needs to come on to the pit lane, and the Mazdas will follow a few laps after that. But Oliver Jarvis has closed. They had closed right up with Jonathan Bomarito. On this lap, Bomarito's just edged out a little bit more of a gap, and he's going to be slowed up by one of Lexus is going through the box, and now Jarvis right with Bomarito. This is the battle for second and third, streaking up onto the banking.
Over the top one, the Envasa Sullivan. I think that was the lead car. I think that was Telitz that they've just gone by. And Aaron Telitz is putting a great lap together here. His personal best last time around, 1:48.370. Here come the two Mazdas, and they are literally side by side. They almost touch in the tri-oval. A little bit of side drafting going on between the dark red car down on the low side of the track and the white, red and blue up on the top side. Well, Bomarito and Ollie Jarvis there, probably closer than Larry Holt of Multimatic and any of the Mazda team would like. There's a little lock up there by Jarvis going into the International Horseshoe. that long, interminably long, get the book out, read a chapter type long right-hander on the first part of the infield. I mean, Jeremy, to be honest, that was tight if you'd been two competing teams, but for two teammates, and they are teammates, they might be different coloured cars, but they are absolutely Team Mazda here. That was heart in the mouth time for the rest of the Mazda Motorsports team.
It was. That was a lot closer than I would have liked there if I'm the team principals there. Either Nelson Cosgrove from Mazda Motorsports or anybody from Multimatic. Charlie Codier is the new team manager there with the new Multimatic operation, having taken over the running of that team from Mazda Team Yost. But boy, yeah, that was tight. But here we are on board again now, though, with that number 3 Corvette. That's Jordan Taylor. He's fallen back about 4 seconds from Oliver Gavin, in second place, and a gap from first and second between Bruno Spengler and the BMW and Oliver Gavin is pretty much stagnant now at 2.2 seconds.
And that, I mean, Ollie's closed into that, but Bruno's starting to respond. He's just done his fastest lap of the race, 44.1 last time around for Spengler, to hold that gap, as you said, just on 2.5 seconds. But that is going to continue. Both of those cars still on their opening stints. They've completed 24 laps, and all of the top 4, as we just wait for Vato to come around, and he has done, they've all completed 24 laps. Expect to see them run for about another, let's see, 24, 6, yeah, they'll probably get 30, just under 30 laps, 29 or 30 laps, I think, the GT Le Mans cars is what I've been looking at from the fuel numbers. And that's just under an hour.
On board again with Aaron Tielitz, who leads the way in GTD. Tremendous effort by the Wisconsinite. 10 seconds his margin over his teammate Francis Montecarlo, doing a really good job there in second place. Richard Goldberg in the Acura for Heinrich Racing in the third position. He's got about 5 seconds ahead of his teammate Matt McMurray in the number 86 Acura.
Thanks to Brent Smith for the kind words. He's watching and listening on. Don't forget, if you're in a territory, you're listening on IMSA Radio at the moment on XM Sirius, that's Sirius 216, XM 210 in the States, or you're not able to watch NBCSN, well, don't forget, you can, if you're listening in on RS2 IMSA Radio, through the end of the race uninterrupted. If you're outside the US and your territory doesn't have a TV deal, radio-show.co.uk, and look for the link to the IMSA live stream, or type in imsa.tv, no breaks, right the way through again to the checkered flag, and we'll have the audio replays for you. We've already got the practice session, pre-practice session, and qualifying up as an audio podcast as well. Down to just 0.6 of a second for the lead battle now, as Chavez is fighting his way back through the field in the 31, as Pete Durrani rather is fighting his way back after the pit stop. But Juan Montoya just 0.6 ahead of Jonathan Bomarito as they're heading around the circuit and down onto the infield again. So Montoya in the number 6 car leads Bomarito by a decreasing margin. They're in traffic. In fact, top 3 are together now, in behind the BMW of Jesse Kron. And they go through the bus stop, starting to get a little bit darker now. You can start to see some of the lights around the environs of Daytona International Speedway. Top 3 absolutely together as they head down into the tri-oval, and the Speedway lights have come on. Remember, we were delayed for lightning in the area, around about 40 minutes of a delay to the green flag. 2 Mazdas hunting in a pack, and at the moment Juan Montoya, well, nothing faces JP, to be honest, Jeremy, but he is coming under increasing pressure as he comes down to the International Horseshoe.
He is, and I would expect Montoya to be on the pit lane probably next time around, or maybe the lap after, but probably this time. But yeah, these Mazdas have got real pace. We've seen already that Oliver Jarvis set the fastest lap of the race, 1:35.7. It was only a couple of other cars in the 36s. John Barbosa, surprisingly, in number 5 car, is running in 5th position, and Jonathan Bomarito in the other Mazda, 136.4. Everybody else is doing 37s in the other DPI cars. So the Mazda's clearly got the pace here, but Juan Pablo Montoya, well, he's not the easiest guy to get past, is he?
No, not at all. But the Mazdas have a point, will fail, they have a point to prove. Jonathan Bomarito won't just want to wait for JPM to dive into the pit lane. As I look down the inside again, not really throwing it in there, going into the bus stop. Robbie Foley has been into the pits in the 96 BMW. The M6 has been taken over by Bill Oberlin, looking to become the most successful American sports car driver in America in terms of wins of all time. He's tied for that at the moment. To get a class win here, we're taken to 61. As Shay's just said to me, how appropriate would that be for Bill Oberlin to do today in a red, white and blue car? An all-American driver, no doubt, Bill Oberlin, on Independence Day in the United States of America. Wherever you're watching around the world, welcome along. Daytona International Speedway hosting the second round of the WeatherTech SportsCar Championship and the first round of the sprint version of IMSA's Premier Championship. Just over an hour and 50 minutes still to go. We start with 2:40 on the clock here, and we're already coming down to pit stop time for the leading DPIs. Remember, Montoya stopped early to take off wet weather tyres after just a handful of laps, 5 laps, and now he has done 23 laps in this stint, just 20 and 19 laps completed respectively for the two Mazdas behind, and here comes Jonathan Bomarito, almost hits the back of the Acura as they come down, as they're coming down and breaking out for the bus stop. There was just a jink one way then the other by the leader. Maybe just brought Bomarito out. That was as close can be to taking either the rear under tray of the Acura Team Penske or the front end of the 55 Mazda, and Ollie Jarvis keeping a watching brief at the moment.
Pit stop for Montoya on his last lap. Johnny turned his best lap of the race to Juan Pablo Montoya in that number 6 car before he makes the left-hand turn onto pit lane. The two Mazdas continue to battle. The 137.1 it was last time around from Juan Pablo Montoya, so left his best till last. And now it's the two Mazdas who will take up the running.
Let's go to Shea Adam, who's watching the Acura pit stop.
Fuel and tires for Juan Pablo Montoya, but no driver change yet for the Key Biscayne-based Juan Pablo Montoya. He's staying in for another stint. They did do a windshield tear-off for him, though, so we will be able to see a little bit more clearly as they're just waiting on the fuel now for the Acura. Also in the pit lane was Bruno Spengler in the number 25 BMW, and the other Penske is that's the number 7 of Elio Castroneves. Looks like fuel and tires for Elio too, as his day is not yet done and he's staying aboard. So for Ricky Taylor, it's a little bit more of a waiting game.
We have a BMW sneaking in there as well. Sorry, did you mention that?
Yep, that was the red BMW. That was Bruno Spengler coming in. Connor Di Filippi taking it out.
Right, thank you. And he is in fact back out on the track. So Jonathan Bomarito, J-Bob did 8 laps before he came in on his stint. He's now done 21 on this set of slick Michelin tyres. Ollie Jarvis did 9. He's now done 20 on this set. So they're doing very nicely indeed. Montoya did 24 on his full stint on those slick tyres. So at least 3 more laps then for Bomarito, possibly as many as 4 for Ollie Jarvis. And that's going to make things very interesting towards the end of the race. The GT Le Mans stops. We had Spengler in after 27 laps. We've already got the Corvette having done 28. I thought maybe 29, possibly even 30 for the GT Le Mans. Now, in fairness, that was from the front of the race, so there would have been a couple of warm-up laps as well. Mazda in, Shea Adam.
That is Harry Tinknell, who is running around the side of the car. He's not getting in. He's doing a drinks bottle change for Jonathan Monredo. So staying aboard for one more stint is Jonathan. He chucks a water bottle out the side door, fuel and tires for that 55 Mazda. Also in the pit lane, we've got the 16 Wright Motorsport Porsche. That's Ryan Hardwick, who has made his successful stint at Daytona 1 year after a crash that took him out of racing until the Rolex this year. So that's a very good stint for Ryan. He'll be pleased with that. We also had the 912 Porsche. That's the defending GTLM champions. Earl Bamber took over from Lawrence Vanthoor, so Lawrence gets a chance to finally breathe after that sketchy start. And Tommy Milner, American boy, is in for the Ford Corvette. Oliver Gavin is out. In the pit lane, also number 3, that's the yellow Corvette. Jordan Taylor bringing that car in. It should be Antonio Garcia taking it back out. And the leader in GTD has finally made an appearance. Aaron Felix brought that Lexus in. It's Jack Hawksworth who's taking over and getting slick tires. While behind him, his sister car comes in. Frank Montalvo bringing it in. And after that, we made it a heck of a long way to try and drive that number 12 ABS Lexus, finally getting in his comfy position back behind the wheel of the car.
The drinks bottle that Harry changed there was one of the drive systems that Progressive do come down here in the UK and over at Brackley. Hello to Dave Ward, who had a birthday in the last couple of days, and Howden Hames and the rest of the Hames family. I'm sure you are watching at the moment. DJ isn't watching at the moment. I was going to say shouldn't you be at school, but of course nobody is at the moment, so it's all right. You can be up watching DJ at the moment. Out goes the number 12 ABS Ambassador Sullivan machine. That looked like a clean stop. Carl Robinson in the pit lane as well in the 74. That's going to be a driver change to Shea Adam.
That is Lawson Aschenbach taking over that car. He had a sketchy moment at the beginning of practice yesterday for the first practice. Ran a little bit wide leaving the pit lane, so he will be extra cautious with getting out of the pit lane today, with the conditions being a little bit trickier for he in the Mercedes. I do have a couple more updates from other cars on the pit lane, John. It was minor tire adjustments on both of the Corvettes, but no other changes beyond that for both of the cars. And for the number 31, that is the Whelen Engineering Cadillac. Chris Mitchum has informed me that they are now basically involved in a fuel mileage race. They don't think they can win it on flat-out pace, but they know that they've got Pippo, and he's one of the best at saving fuel when he needs to.
He's also very, very fast indeed. In from the lane, Ollie Jarvis, then the best of 1:35.7.55, and even coming into the pit lane, he's done a 1:36.4, so that's not exactly hanging about, and that will make that a 22 lap stint. I might want a lap or two more than that. Shea Adam?
It is fuel tires and a driver change. Tristan Nunez is being plugged into the 77 Mazda. Now, a couple of times last year, this crew decided to have Ollie qualify the car, Tristan get into the middle stint, and then put a fresh Oliver Jarvis back in for the finish. They did that to some great success at some tracks, including Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, where they came away with a win. So let's see what they decide to do now. It's a windshield clean, not a tear off for the 77. So they decided to leave tear off when the sun goes completely down, fuel runs out, and the car is back off and away. A couple of GTB hit callers also in the lane right now. Cooper McNeil in the 63 Scuderia Corse Ferrari. He comes in, and Tony Belanda will be taking it back out. Misha Goldberg is in the Heinricher Racing MSR Acura. That means he will be handing over to Alvaro Parent, a guy who is very excited to get back to business. And Mark Miller, a guy who knows all about getting back to business when Acura is taking over the 23 Radiant Racing Acura from Till Bechtelsheimer. We still have yet to see John Potter come into the pit lane in the Magnus Lamborghini. They came in earlier on. Remember, they did a fuel and changed the tires a little bit earlier on, so they're running John longer in this stint and keeping Andy Lowry safe up their sleeve.
Shea Adam along with Jeremy Shaw. I'm John Hindorf in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. An hour and 43 minutes still to go, and Gabby Chavez and Pipo Durrani are back at the front. It's Pipo now at the wheel of the number 31 car. He's got a handy 15-second lead over Ryan Briscoe. They are on the same fuel and pit lane strategy. 22 laps their opening stint, and the two drivers in at the moment have both been in for 10 laps. But here comes Jonathan Bomarito and just drives past the Konica Minolta Cadillac. Got a bit of a tour, Jeremy, but my goodness, that man is very quick indeed in a straight line.
Yeah, certainly is, and that was no problem for Jonathan Bomarito. The number 77 car on that stayed out for a couple of laps. We'll have to wait and see where Tristan Nunez resumes in comparison to the other leaders. But certainly the number 55 car came in first, came in a couple of laps before, and as a result of staying out one lap longer than the number 6 car, the 55 car came out ahead of the number 6, and so that was a change already for the lead there. I think Tristan Nunez has surprisingly fallen quite a long way back. It must have been maybe a problem on the outlap for Tristan Nunez. He lost a little bit of ground to the other leaders, but it is Piva Durrani who leads the race as a result of that. Because they're all different strategies right now. There's many of the cars with different strategies, but there's a long way still to go. 1 hour and 41 minutes remaining.
And we've had a lot of GTD stops, 28 laps. The Bassett Sullivan 14 before they swapped their drivers over. Now Jack Hawksworth is leading. T-Bell after his commentary stint over at Indianapolis earlier on today for NBCSN is now behind the wheel of the number 12 car, and that also did 28 laps, first of all in the hands of Frankie Montecalvo. In has just come the number 30, the Team Hardpoint car. Robert Corio has done 29 laps. Misha Goldberg did 29 laps. Short stint for Robbie Foley before he changed over to Bill Oberlin. That was just 24 laps there. Carl Robinson, a very good impressive 28 laps before Lawson got in. Ryan Harden, 27. Bechtelsheimer did his job. 29 laps and a best of a 1:49.3. He'll be very happy with that. Mark Miller now behind the wheel of the Gradient Racing number 22. So that's their first set of pit stops. GT Daytona cars all underway, and as Jeremy said, that's a fairly easy one. They're just over, or just on, an hour's worth of driving. If they use the full tank of fuel, compass in as well at the moment as Corey Fergus will give his seat over. You remember, started from the pit lane and then had to take a drive through to NSX, absolutely side by side, and again the side drafting coming into play there. They seem to be drawn towards each other as the bright pink number 86 gets the advantage, and that's Farnbacher and Parent having a cracking battle for 4th and 5th, Jeremy, in GTD.
Yeah, that's right, and Alvaro Parent then just called up with Mario Farnbacher. It looks like he's going to go through there at the East Horseshoe, and he does, so that's up in the 4th place there for car number 86 ahead of, number 57 ahead of the number 86 car. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Jonathan Bomarito has just set a new blistering fastest lap of the race, 1:35.508 in the 2nd place overall car number 55. The race leader, Piva Durrani, he's just turned that car's fastest lap 1:36.7, so over a second quicker for the 2nd place car.
It's Jeremy Shaw, and I got the feeling that the headlines haven't quite been written as yet. Nick Tandy reporting problems ahead of him a few moments ago, Shea Adam.
He said that he saw 2 GTD cars come together going into turn 1. He didn't exactly give us the numbers of which cars they were because he's a little busy driving a race car at 190 miles an hour, but I'll give him a pass on that one. But he said that there might be bits of carbon down in turn 1, particularly toward the apex. So that's a dangerous spot, and that's something that race control will want to keep an eye on.
Yeah, there's been a lot of teammates, Jeremy, very close together. Our Porsche keys to the race. We didn't put "don't drive into your teammates" because I really don't feel that should be something that we should have to mention, but we've had a couple of Mazdas very close together, a couple of NSXs pretty close together, and a couple of Corvettes pretty close together at various times during the race.
Great stuff. Makes it interesting, doesn't it? We've got a new leader in GTLM right now. That would be Nick Tandy, because the other leaders have just made their first pit stops of the day with an hour and 37. So they've just gone just over an hour then. The leaders in GTLM having started on slick tyres. Nick Tandy, he started on wets, made the switch after lap 5, so he's got another 4 or 5 laps out from 2 will be on the pit lane. Behind him now.
Sorry,
Yeah, just going to say the number 24 car was the first of the GTLM cars to pit. That came in with just over 2 hours remaining in the race, and right now number 24 car will be in the lead of the race. I think when Nick Tandy comes onto the pit lane, Jesse Krohn will have 4 or 5 seconds over Connor Di Filippi, and the Corvettes, having been very, very close behind the best place of the Corvettes, which was the BMWs, which was number 25 car. All of a sudden now the number 4 car is about 10 or 12 seconds further back down the road from the BMWs.
Nick Tandy's been in that 911 that leads the GT Le Mans class since the start. Jeremy said he took the start and romped off into a lead on wet weather tyres, but then burned off pretty quickly, came in after 5 laps. He's now done 29 laps on his Michelin slicks. Jesse Krohn came in after 18 laps. He's done another 16 laps since then. Spengler came in after 27 in 3rd place. So Tandy, I reckon, in fact, here he comes into the pit lane. This is going to be a 30-lap stint, about what I thought those guys would be doing. So I think everyone who came in on 27 and 28 laps were just a tiny bit short of what they could do. As I said before, they did start the race on that. Nick Tandy jumps out, Fred jumps in, the distinctive blue and silver helmet. The Porsche shade strip on there. Tandy over the wall. The new set of Michelin tyres have already got on. The determining factor for these pit stops should be how long it takes for the fuel to go in, and that's exactly how the Porsche GT North American team have got it down to a T. The hose to come out, it's fired up and it's gone, and it's as simple as that, except it really isn't, because you try picking up one of those tyres with one hand and firing it onto the centre lug nut. So Fred McAvecchi then into the frame with cooled Michelin slicks. He'll drop back down, but we'd expect to see him out there for another 30 laps. And that's going to take him well into the race. That's going to give him something like half an hour to go to the end of the race. Or, of course, he might come in with just under an hour to go, splash and not put tyres on, and try to do a stint and a half. There's still some strategy, I reckon, to play out here in GT Le Mans, Jeremy.
Yeah, there is. I agree, but in GTD, well, there's no strategy here. Jack's just with the Townsend Bell. Yeah, they've done a super job. There's still 10 seconds between those top 2 cars. Bill Auberlen in 3rd position. The gap to him is about 7 seconds. So that's about the same. So we've got different drivers in each of the behind each of the GTD cars right now. But Auberlen is charging on there in 3rd position. He's actually made up some ground, hasn't he? Because before the round of pit stops, the number 96 car was in the 5th position. So Auberlen now up into 3rd and trying to track down those 2 Lexus that went out front with Jack Hawksworth, about 10 seconds ahead of Townsend Bell.
Yeah, they did stop 4 laps early. Foley stopped 4 laps earlier than the 2 ABS cars,
Yes, he did, and jumped out of the car. He's the first one of our silver drivers to get out of the car, even though he's been doing really good time. I've been talking to Robbie over text. He said it was a really tricky stint, but he's hopeful that the race will actually come to them at the end, because they never changed their setup to reflect any rain. They've been on a full dry setup this whole time, so if the car was decent in the mixed conditions, he said Bill should have a good machine under him for the end of this one.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Interesting, we've got 3 front-engine cars at the front of the GTD field, with the 2 Lexus and the BMW, then the 2 Acuras and the Ferraris, and then 3 mid-engine cars, and then it's back to the front-engine cars. The only Porsche in the race is the Simpleton Wright Motorsports car. Pat Long now in that car with 48.5 last time around. Expect to see that car coming forward just a little bit. Mark Miller still getting up to speed in the Acura NSX GT3 of Gradient Motorsport. He's down in 10th position. Got a feel, Jeremy, for the Compass Racing guys. They've got the fastest lap of the race. Paul Holton, in that Compass Racing car now. But really, any chance that they had after that brilliant qualifying, and it was a brilliant qualifying from Corey Fergus. Simple mistake, and we said in the Porsche keys to the race, you can't afford any mistakes. I meant in the race, not in the build-up to it, but weren't out on the pit lane in time. Had to start from the pit lane and then do a drive-through.
Yeah, very, very costly that was, unfortunately, for that team. But they're just going to get some experience here, and the car's fast. They know that now. Any hope of a good result has probably gone out of the window. But they've already made their mark, haven't they? And for the first run ever at Daytona for this car and the team, very stout effort. So lots of promise, I think, for this team to build from. A quick note in GTLM, a new fastest lap of the race, turned by Connor Di Filippi in car number 25. That's the second placed BMW. A couple of 3 laps ago, Connor turned that best lap to 1:43.6, so a couple of tenths quicker than the sister car of Jesse Krohn now, who leads in car number 24. And the number 911, having made that pit stop, Fred Bakavecki, is back out in the fray, but he's a long, long way behind the other contenders, having made that early additional stop to change tyres. It's the only car in GTLM, if we remember, that started on wets.
Yeah, Tony Wieland has just taken away the fastest GT Daytona lap of the race from Compass. Wieland in the Scuderia Corsa took over from the starting driver early. Now, when was that? When did he jump in to that car? Where's Wieland?
7 or 8 laps.
Yes, I reckon so. Yeah, 6 laps ago, Jeremy, spot on. So Wieland getting up to pace there. That was 12 minutes or 6 laps ago thereabouts. So let's keep an eye on that white, red and blue, a bit of a patriotic colour scheme for the Scuderia Corsa, the WeatherTech car that Cooper McNeil started, of course, earlier on. Well, we're down to 90 minutes to go. So just about 10 minutes away from halfway through the race, and this is how it stands. Pipo Derani by 7 seconds. Whelen Engineering and the Cadillac. Well, there's a turn up for the books. All kinds of thoughts about the Cadillac's not potentially any kind of competitive here in the sprint format, but Pipo Derani, well, he doesn't know that, or at least if he does, he's just choosing not to believe it. And the last time around, 1:36.9, 1:36.3 for Pomerino, closed in just a little bit. 1:36.7 for Montoya now in third. Cadillac, Mazda, Acura in the top 3, separated by just under 16 seconds. Jeremy Shaw.
Yeah, that's right, John, you're absolutely right there. Pipo Derani, his last lap, as you said, 36.9, that's only 2/10 of a second away from his fastest lap of the race. But there's no question that Mazdas in particular and the Acuras are quicker than the Cadillac today. It's just that brilliant and brave strategy at the beginning of the race by number 31 team to put Gavin Chalmers, even with such little experience in his car to gravel, start this very treacherous race on slick tyres. That's why the car is still in the lead right now. The gap is coming down. It's not coming down quite as quickly as it was, but certainly it's only going to be a matter of time before Pomerino sweeps through. The interesting thing to me is the Acuras are not able to keep pace now with the Mazdas, it seems. During that first stint, having switched on to slick tyres, Elio Castroneves in the Ponce in car number 7 really struggled, fell back a long, long way. Ricky Taylor is now at the wheel of car number 7, but he is a full 25 seconds or more behind the sister car, driven as it was from the start by Rob Montoya.
Yeah, and he ran last time around a second slower than the leading Cadillac. So where has the pace gone? And that's very interesting indeed. Sebastian Portier did a 36.9 last time around for Mustang Sangling's Cadillac. Tristan Fortier 37.7. So very interesting indeed to see the spread of times now at the sharp end of the field. Tristan Nunez with 36.2 last time around, and Pomerino with 36.2. So the two Mazdas are the fastest cars at the moment, and they are moving forward. And we've now got that battle that we were talking about coming on between the number 7 and 10, Ryan Briscoe and Ricky Taylor, and Taylor's caught and gone past him already, Jeremy.
Big pardon.
Ricky Taylor's gone past Ryan Briscoe for 5th position there.
Yes. That was that was a while ago. Number 10 car sort of falling back now into well, not really into the clutches, because Ricky Taylor he's struggling as well in that number 7 car. And Sebastian Bourdais is all over the back end now. He's closed up on Ricky Taylor. So for some reason, the number 7 car really is struggling at this stage in the race, and it is falling back from everybody else. But the gap, once again now up at the front of the field, 3.5 seconds now. The gap only between first and second. 2 laps ago it was over 7. 4 laps ago it was almost 9 seconds. So inexorably, Jonathan Bomarito is closing on Pipo Derani, who leads the race in car number 31.
Andy Lally comes into the pit lane for the GRT Magnus Lamborghini, the number 44 car, and we think we might have worked out, Shea Adam, which were the 2 cars that Nick Tandy saw coming together a few moments ago, well, a little more than a few moments ago now.
Well, it was John Potter and Rob Ferriol at the time getting together going into turn 1. So the Lamborghini trying to dive down the inside of the Audi going into turn 1 from quite a ways back, but John Potter just making slight contact. Ferriol doing a good job to hang on to that car, actually. But now it is Andy Lally who has taken the GRT Magnus Lamborghini back out of the pit lane. So it's in 10th position right now. Let's see how far Lally can drag that thing up the charts.
Jesse Krohn leading in GT Le Mans by 3.8 seconds on his teammate Conor De Filippi. They're lapping within milliseconds of each other last time around. 44.170, 44.177. Tommy Milner's getting a bit of a wiggle on. 44.103 was that car's fastest lap of the race last time around. But he's got 15 seconds to make up on the 2 Munich monsters ahead of him. Then it's the Porsche GT of Earl Bamber. He'll finish off the race 44.3 last time around for the 912 Tonio Garcia. Number 3 Corvette Racing Machine. He's another 1.3 seconds further back, 44.1. Really nothing there between them. 44.9. A little bit off the pace from Fred Magavecchi, recently installed in the Porsche 911 RSR, the 19 version of that car. As Derani continues to lead, but he's continuing, as Jeremy said, to be closed down by Bomarito. And Montoya having to get a bit of a wiggle on, because he's been closed down as well by Tristan Nunez. And that Mazda is going to be hovering into view behind the number 6 car. It's number 77. So the white Mazda should be there sometime soon. That far behind. My timing is only 0.6 of a second away, so
he's really struggling in his Acura right now. He's been overtaken by Sebastian Bourdais in the Cadillac car number 5. For some reason, he's lost a lot of pace last time around from Ricky Taylor to 138.7. The leaders, his teammate, Pablo Montoya in 3rd position, just came across the line 136.3, so 2 seconds quicker in the number 6 car is Montoya, even though he's fallen back now 10 seconds behind the Mazda in 2nd place. And it's going to be the next couple of laps. Pipo Derani is going to be, his lead is going to be under great threat from Jonathan Bomarito in the number 55 Mazda.
Huge amount of flame popping out of the side of that Acura. Yeah. First one side, then the other. That car is not happy. That's got to be over-fueling. And coming down through the bus stop last time around, there was a cough and a splutter and then a bit of a clearance. Oh, in fact, it's into the pit lane.
Oh, there we go.
And too much fuel coming out of the exhaust pipe. I thought that was a bit odd. I saw it a few moments ago, and as he comes into the pit lane, it's blowing unburnt fuel out of the exhaust on both sides. Well, that's very unusual. Jeremy, we don't see this, we don't think of this with Acura, but that's clearly a big engine problem for that number 7. Ricky Taylor been slowing up the last few laps. He's out of the car, it's been seen move, and had to put some extinguisher on it. That will write that one down in the diary. You don't see that very often, Jeremy.
We don't, do we? And that's there's nothing trivial there, I'm afraid. That's a major problem. But clearly, Helio Castroneves has been struggling since the early part of the race, probably maybe 10 or 15 laps in. Was beginning when he began to lose pace compared to his teammates. But here now, our eyes now on the battle for the lead. Miguel Durrani has been caught by Jonathan Bommarito as they head through the infield section on lap 46, 45 laps in the book.
People due in probably next lap, I would have thought. He's been out there for 23 laps. Gavin Chavez did 22 at the start of the race. There might be the odd one or two extra in that, but I would expect him in fairly shortly. He will give up the lead to Jonathan Bommarito. Another little battle that's getting interesting is for only 7th position in GTD, but the Mercedes-AMG of Lawson Aschenbach and Matt Long are pretty close together, less than half a second between them. And further up the GTD field, number 86, the bright pink car, is right in behind now. The 57, another one of the Acuras, that's Alvaro Perent versus Mario Farnbacher, but they're in second between those two. So will Pipo Derani come in? We're almost exactly at half distance. So 22 laps the first stint for the Whelen car, 23 laps as it stands now, as I'm afraid for Acura Team Penske fans, the number 6 car's gone behind the wall and back towards its garage area, and that's very bad news indeed. Well, Durrani's gone round for another one. That is the 7 car, excuse me. It was in 6th position, now dropped out of that. Apologies. Panicked everybody who is following the number 6 car. Montoya still running in 3rd. I think number 6 Illuminated on the side of that car wasn't his position when he came into the pit lane. Just checking our predictive software here. And 48 laps predicted to go. So a 94 lap race is what we're seeing now. So one more lap to exactly half distance in terms of the time and indeed the distance. We needed 93 laps to beat the pace of the Rolex race, and for a long period of time. As into the pit lane from 5th position comes the Cadillac of Brian Briscoe. Shea Adams watching this one.
That should be Render Van de Zande finally getting an opportunity to go play in the glossy black Cadillac, but we'll just have to wait a few moments and see if we see that bright yellow helmet behind the wheel. And yep, it finally is. So Ryan with a very long and successful spin halfway. They're sharing nicely at Konica Minolta Racing. Championship leaders coming in.
And that was a smooth stop for them. Made sure they got everything right. Pit stops so important, even in the short races, possibly in some respects even more important in the shorter races, Jeremy, because you just don't have time to make it up again. And that was a pretty good job. As in comes Pipo Derani, as we thought. That's a spot on time for him. In fact, if anything, he's gone a bit longer than I thought. That's a 24 lap stint. The Mazda 22s and 23s. That's a good, long and quick stint for Derani, and that means he will go one more stop from here, I reckon.
Yes, I think so, and it'll be close, but yes, they should be able to get there on one more pit stop. So we'll see. Jonathan Bommarito, I would expect to stay out.
5 laps.
No.
At least 5 laps. His last stint was 22
yes,
laps.
Right.
He's on 17 at the moment. As Bill Orgeland comes in as well in the number 96 car. They were running very nicely indeed. Had taken over that car from Robert Fund. That's a bit early for that car. That's very early for that car. That's 6 laps early for that car. Shea Adam, what was going on there?
Could have been fuel and tires only. They were the first GTD car to come onto the pit lane when the cycle began, and they were well before everyone else. As another BMW is on the pit lane, this time it's Jesse Krohn in the 24 Team RLL BMW. This is the black one, for those of you at home keeping score, as the red one takes over the lead. So Connor used to be number 25 stays up, and here's John Edwards up on the wall to take over for Jesse Krohn. John, who hasn't driven this car in competition since it was his final stint before coming home at Daytona. So a lot of good memories for John climbing into the car. Now they're doing fuel and tires as well as strategy, all calm and cool. And remember, this is a car on a 3-stop strategy, whereas it looks like everybody else in the GTLM is going for a different timing on their strategies.
Yeah, Spengler did 27 laps in the sister car to start with. Conor Felipe's therefore got at least another 6 or 7 laps to go, but they'll have to do another one. The 24th car to do another stop from here, as will everybody else, of course. Now, is that a bit of rain that I see falling in the headlights of that BMW as it pulls out of the pit lane? Don't think so. Check to see. Can't quite put my hand out the window here and find out what the weather's doing at the speedway at the moment. Could just be a bit of dust or some bugs in the air that I was seeing. At IMSA Radio, if you want to get in touch with us for the next hour and 17 minutes. So we're in the second half of the race. Here's how it stands in GT Daytona. Jack Hawksworth leads for him. Vassar Sullivan from his teammate Townsend Bell. 12.5 seconds the gap between those two. Then it's Mario Farnbacher in third position, who's still having a cracking battle with Alvaro Parent. Those two had it hammer and tongs, and only 4/10 between them down through the tri-oval and onto the infield. Now those two NSXs, and that's a change around in positions, isn't it? Because the pink one was behind the blue one earlier on, and I was snookered on the green, frankly, as I seem to remember earlier. Behind them is the Scuderia Corsa. Tony Verlander is about 20 seconds further back behind those two battling NSXs, and then Lawson Aschenbach in a top 6 position for Riley. Pat Long still hanging onto his back bumper in 7th for Wright Motorsports Porsche. Then Mark Miller for Gradient Racing up into 8th position. He is just about to cross the line now. In GT Le Mans, BMW lead for Conor De Phillippi. Got about 6-7 laps to go before his next pit stop, which will be his penultimate stop. He's got a pleasantly comfortable gap over Tom Milner, the number 4 Corvette, of 16.5 seconds or thereabouts. He's got 3 seconds on Earl Bamber, who's got 4/10 of a second on Antonio Garcia, who's got 25 seconds on Mako, and John Edwards has just rejoined, and he's a further 30 seconds back. And in the front of the field, J-Bob, Jonathan Bomarino with 8 seconds of a lead on the Whelan car. Check that on there. Juan Montoya in second for Acura Team Penske, the 7 car behind the ball with an engine issue. Then the master of Tristan Nunez, another 2 seconds further back. Then the long gap to Sebastian Bourdais, 25 seconds. Then 42 seconds back to Pipo Derani. But I reckon Pipo could go to the end with just one more stop. So it's all going to even up at the front of the field after very different strategies at the start of the race. Jeremy Shaw, your first thoughts as we are in now to the second half of the race?
Yeah, really interesting, isn't it, at this stage? Certainly the Mazdas are looking pretty good at the moment, but Juan Pablo Montoya, he's hanging in there in second place in car number 6, and over the last 3 or 4 laps he's edged away a little bit from Tristan Nunez. He was under intense pressure from the youngster, the young Floridian in number 77 Mazda, but the veteran Montoya, he's gapped him now by a couple and a half seconds as they complete lap 50. The leaders, Sebastian Bourdais, doing an exemplary job as always in number 5 car, in the 4th position at the moment, and he is due a pit stop fairly soon as well. In GTLM, we just talked about that, Conor De Phillippi leads by 16 seconds at the BMW, without now over the number 4 car, with number 24 BMW having run on a different schedule in the pits again. I'm so surprised in GTD why number 96 car should be coming so soon.
Well, let's ask that very question of Shea Adam. I'll keep my eye on Lawrence Banter, of Earl Banter's car rather, battling with Antonio Garcia as they are for 3rd position. Shea, what have you found out from Turner Motorsport?
I'm just talking to Robbie Foley. He said they feel like they're lacking a little bit of a pace, and everyone else can go up to 2 laps longer than they can on fuel. So what they've done is they've rolled the dice. Will Turner on the box for that car knows how to win races when you don't necessarily have the fastest car on the track. They've decided to run shorter stints so they have less fuel in the car, making it a lighter car, and they have more car. So they're doing an extra stop in effect, but they're hoping that their pace will then be rectified because the car will weigh less.
Right, well, that's a high-risk strategy coming down the pit lane. 10 minutes or thereabouts to official sunset. The lights undoubtedly playing their part now. Start to see a few shadows at IMSA Radio. Hello to Alan Prosser, doing great work as ever. And Alexander Orkin was asking about sunset and will the mild drop in air temperature have much effect? Air temperature's gone up actually, was 28 degrees Celsius. It's now 31. Humidity officially has dropped down to 66. 66%. I would like to suggest if we were standing in the pit lane in full fireproofs, it might feel a little bit more than that. Track temperature is what is dropping though, Alex. That's absolutely right. That's down at 26 degrees Celsius, so that's gone down a couple of degrees, although the air temperature is going up. It's getting very hot and sticky, and it's going to be uncomfortable in those cars. Meantime, the battle for third position in GTLN on the banking between turns 1 and 2, coming past the number 57 Acura, currently driven by Alvaro Perez. Now he's in his own battle because just ahead of Perez is Mario Farnbacher, and both of the battling GTD cars just about get through. No, the Corvette doesn't get through before the bus stop. Has to drop in behind and will lose a little bit of time on Earl Bamber, who for a moment has a little bit of breathing space, and back onto the pit lane, or onto the pit lane, should I say, from second position is Montoya. He's followed in Adam by Tristan Nunez, second and third on the lane.
So the white prototypes watching the race are on the pit lane together, and it's Dean Cameron finally getting the chance to drive that championship winning number 6 Acura Team Penske machine. So fuel tires and a very refreshed Dean Cameron getting into that car. They do still have the driver change assistant, and Team Penske is one of the crews that was being hampered by the fact they are only allowed 15 people inside the track per car. They normally have people, many more people than that, including in the NASCAR paddock, people to even open doors in the trailers so that they don't have to worry about cross-contamination. Drinks bottle change for all of the cars back into the 77 Mazda. Their pit stop is done. That was beautiful by those boys up on the pit wall. But they were beaten out by Dane Cameron. So now it's a little bit of a job for Ollie, as he hopefully is refreshed, but he has the advantage over Dane. He's already been out on track. He knows what it's like. Dane doesn't.
Sebastian Bourdais goes through into second position for the moment. He's on exactly the same strategy as Jonathan Bomarito and is down 35 seconds further back down the road, and they will be due in very shortly indeed. 1, maybe 2 more laps for the 2-car squad. First and second at the moment. And back in comes Jonathan Bomarito 1 lap after his teammate, exactly as we would have expected.
Earlier stop than would anticipate from number 77 car. Oliver Jarvis, he's clearly feeling that Tristan Nunez hasn't quite got himself
2 laps early, I reckon.
speed as much.
Yeah, at least 2 laps early.
It came in 2 laps fast, 55 last time around. This time it's coming before number 55. So here we are, number 55 car, 53 laps on the books, is on to the pit lane for the stop. We'll do one more pit stop for each of the leaders, but that good in lap for Pablo Montoya enabled him in the number 6 Acura to stay ahead of the number 77.
Shea was watching,
Fuel tires and Harry Tinknell getting to do more than just replacing a drinks bottle. He now got to put his own new drinks bottle into that car. So let's see what Tinks can do at Daytona. Also into the pit lane is Bourdais. He will be staying aboard the Mustang sampling Cadillac, so there is no change there as far as drivers concerned, but fuel and tires for the Mustang sampling club.
Which makes it Filippo Durrani will cycle back to the lead of the race, I reckon. And remember, people over a stop actually full of laps ago with the Whelen Engineering car, the 31 Cadillac, trying to break this down into an exact 3-stop race, and all so far going very well. 22 laps, then 25 laps, 22 laps plus the warm-up laps, of course, then 25 laps. Now, is there a problem for the 44 car?
Excuse me, John, I'm not sure number 55 car is actually going to lose the lead. He might be able to get out and stay ahead of the Cadillac. We'll have to wait and see.
He might be. right, actually, Jeremy. I was just waiting to see if people had come around. Bit of a problem for Andy Lally, who was having a battle with Spencer Pumpelly, two drivers who shared the same car at the Rolex. And Andy Lally just outbreaking himself to ongoing problems there. On the MG Mercedes in the Riley colours, the semi-4 car. Lawson Ash back to Gar Robinson.
Lawson's been doing a really good job to hold off the very hungry Patrick Wong in the Wright Motorsport Porsche. But in talking with Gar Robinson, who started that Riley Mercedes, he said they really needed it to keep raining. It's a track that gets quicker and quicker as it dries out, but the car is very loose. The problem is the fronts are going away a little bit too quickly. So for Lawson, it's going to be even more difficult for him as he's been out there for 38 minutes on this set of tires. The good news, though, the guy who's trying to pass him has been out for 40.
Up to speed, and Jeremy, you were right by about 4.5-5 seconds. The Mazda of Harry Tinknell held onto the lead. This is going to be vulnerable for a lap or two to Pipo Derani, whose tyres are under temperature and pressure, and they are hoving into view. In fact, he's right with him now at the West Horseshoe as they're coming through. It's the
Oliver Jarvis
has gone through. Yeah.
Yes, he has. He's gone past Dane Cameron there, so I think the familiarity of the conditions. I mean, that Mazda's super fast, no question about it, this weekend at Daytona, but also the fact that Oliver Jarvis already got experience on the track this evening. Dane Cameron does not. He's getting into that car cold, and I think that helped Oliver Jarvis to be able to make that move possible. Not hindered by the straight line speed of the Mazda.
I wonder how long it will take for Ollie Jarvis to catch Pipo Derani then as well. Ian McCarthy at IMSA Radio says, has a sports car race at this level ever finished in the dark at Daytona, by the way? Well, Ian, this is the traditional date for what used to be called the Port Via 250. And I went to one of the very last ones. I think we said it was 2007, 2000.
10 was the last one.
10 was the last one, was it?
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to look it up to see if I went in 9 or 10. It was the year that we had...
the SunTrust car won in 09, and in 10 it was, I think it was Scott Pruitt and Memo Rojas.
I'm just being told by Declan Brennan, who I was there with, he and his brothers. It was 2003 when I was there, so a little bit
close,
a bit further back. It was the reason I could have found it was the year that we had the LMS summer race, the short race at Road Atlanta, which we did for a couple of seasons. It was one of those, and it was the week after or the week before the Paul Revere 250. So I toddled down to Daytona and went to watch the Paul Revere 250 with the family Brennan, and had an absolutely cracking time. And we watched some NASCAR racing as well. Full programme of trucks, what was then Busch Series and the Cup, and of course the traditional 4th of July, which I think that year was either Wednesday or Thursday. Dex will remember, but that ran from memory, Jeremy. That used to run quite late, didn't it? It definitely finished in the dark. It ran after. It was running till I think it finished at about 11 o'clock.
Yeah, I think it did.
Into the pits for the GT Le Mans leader, Conor De Filippi, gives up the lead then to Tom Milner, and that was then. Sorry, go ahead, Jeremy.
Trying Pipo Derani to hold on ahead of the Mazda of Oliver Jarvis. He had to be super late on the brakes then, did Pipo Derani, but over at the East Horseshoe, he leaves the door just a little bit open. Jarvis gets alongside him, but here there was a super battle between these two.
That was a bit early for the leader in GT Le Mans. A couple of laps at least short for Conor De Filippi.
The reason for that, John, is with 1 hour and 3 minutes remaining in this race, and number 20. It was 20. That was 24 car, wasn't it? It was 25 just came in, wasn't it? I reckon they must believe they can get to the end from here.
I think that's
I'm sure that's what they're thinking.
Well, if they can only do, if they're only doing 20, even if they do 27 laps, it's going to be pretty tight to get. I'm not sure. I'm not sure they can get to the end from here, but I stand to be corrected. Bill Obler back in the pits again after just an 8-lap stint, and that is a problem for the 96 car. So whatever that fuel pickup problem is, it's not getting any better for that car. Tingnell leads for Mazda by 6.8 seconds from his teammate Ollie Jarvis, who's now trying to chase him down. He's got ahead of Pipo Derani. Then another 2 seconds back to Dane Cameron for the remaining Acura. Remember, the number 7 car has gone out of the race with a fairly spectacular engine issue, like the afterburners sort of look like, without the forward momentum, unfortunately, for the number 7 car. Ricky Taylor at the wheel when it was pushed behind the wall. Reina Alexander is in the 10. Minolta Cadillac, he's another 16 seconds further back. Sebastian Bourdais for Mustang Sandvik 4.5 seconds back in that 5 car, 6th position. And Tristan Fortier for JDC Miller is another minute or so further back.
Tristan Fortier though, on that last lap around, he was the fastest car on track, 135.9 for Tristan Fortier. He's a lap down on the leaders in that caliber 85, but he really showed some pace.
And Tom Milner probably got a couple of laps left in the tank of the leading Corvette. I reckon they can do, well, Ollie did 28, including the warm-up laps. So I reckon he can, Tom Milner should be able to do 29 or possibly 30. That's what I was being told the fuel number said from the GT Le Mans car. He's just done his fastest lap of the race at 44.012, backs it up with a 44.032. So he's obviously got a light Corvette C6R under his wheels. Bear in mind that they're doing a 144 lap. So if they're doing 30, even if they do 30 laps with a 144, that's not going to give them an hour, is it? So that is a problem. I'm not sure that BMW that just stopped can go without a splash at the end. And more news from pit lane reporter Shea Adam on the Liquid Molly Turner car.
It was a flat left rear tire that brought them into the pit lane, so it wasn't a fuel issue this time around, but yeah, very much a disappointing race for them.
Yeah, they've had tyre problems before. 4th of July, and the Rockets' red glare over the speedway at the moment with just under an hour to go. Tingle from Jarvis from Durrani, Mazda Cadillac, Acura with Dave Cameron in 4th position. Corvette, can there be anything more averring than a Corvette leading on the 4th of July? Tommy Miller will peel off into the pits in 2 or 3 laps time. He's only got a second and a half ahead of Earl Bamber, who's really picked up the pace recently in the Porsche 911, and he's on exactly the same fuel strategy as the Corvette ahead of him. Lawrence Vanthoor started the race and did the same 28 lap stints as Ollie Gavin did at the start of the race, and as they're coming through, is that the number 3 car right on the tail of the Porsche as they go through the trioval? I think it was. So that is the battle for 2nd and 3rd. There was absolutely nothing in it there. Now there's a prototype between them, which is the 77 of Ollie Jarvis.
He's charging along in 2nd place with Ollie Jarvis. His last lap job was a 1:35.470. This time around was 35.6. The fastest lap of the race was set a while ago by Jonathan Bongarito at a 1:35.446. So 35.470 last time for Jarvis. There's only less than 6 seconds now between the two Mazdas at the front of the field already, just within 3 or 4 laps. The number 31 cars more than 3 seconds behind the second of the Mazdas, and the Acura of Dane Cameron, he's fallen 3.5 seconds behind Pipo Ronnie as well.
Well, I've just got Back to the Future calling the new C8R a C6R. Or was I trying to pull the C6R forward and put the engine in the middle? I don't know. Of course, it's a C8R that we're talking about here. It's getting overly excited for Tom Milner to make his pit stop as Pat Long comes into the pits for Wright Motorsport out of 7th position. He's ahead of the Acura of Mark Miller for Bridget Racing. He's just that car's fastest lap of the race at a 48.8. Milner on the banking in that very distinctive grey with the yellow striping on it. I really like that colourway, Jeremy, on the number 4 Corvette, and great that they've got a number of the teams now have got 2 different coloured cars in the team. Makes our life just a little bit easier.
It does, yeah, it does look absolutely stunning. It's a great looking car in any case, and I think for some reason that scheme of the yellow and the silver really does look sharp, doesn't it? And it's been a very good run today for the Corvettes, but what a battle this has been between the Corvettes and the Porsche of Earl Bamber. The BMWs, they're looking pretty good now. If they've got the fuel economy to get to the end of the race, they're certainly looking good. But it's been a super battle between all of the cars in GTLM. Meanwhile, at the front of, there's some
3 wide going into the bus stop.
Back on the inside, that was tight, wasn't it? At the front of the field, Harry taking on a 6-second lead over Oliver Jarvis, 2 Mazdas. But then it's Stephen Rani in 3rd position. He's about 2.5 seconds ahead of Dane Cameron. But the guys on the charge in recent laps have been Sebastian Bourdais in a Mustang sampling car number 5, the Cadillac. A 1 minute 35.9 last time around for Bourdais. He's been really quick. That's within 0.2 of a second of his fastest lap of the race, and he is reducing the deficit to Dane Cameron in the 4th place car. 15 seconds is the gap between them, with 55 minutes remaining in the race.
Yeah, we'll have to make another stop. Both of those cars, the Jeremy, the 6 and the 5, the Acura and the Mustang sampling Cadillac, they are respectively 8 and 7 laps into their current stint. Still predicting, by the way, on the computer, 33 laps to go, 94 laps predicted at this pace at the moment. As far as the lead in GT Le Mans is concerned, Corvette C8R is in the pit lane share.
I'm surprised that he wasn't followed in by a white and gray Porsche of Earl Bamber, but Earl stays out to maintain the lead. He should be in the next time around. It is Tommy Miller staying aboard in that number 4 Corvette. That would be the silver one, as he gets a windshield tear off from Hollywood and 4 new tires from the rest of his crew. This is a group of guys that's been working together for a very long time, so no change here. The change came on the number 3. That's the yellow Corvette. Just waiting on the fuel as the nozzle is tailpipes as Tommy gives it a little bit of right foot and puts it back out on the racetrack.
So again, that was a 29-lap stint for the Corvette. The Porsche goes through onto its 30th lap. That's what I expected, I'll be honest. And they're going to be close to making that their last stop. 32 laps to go, that'll be 31 laps to go for the leader next time around. But I think some of those GT Le Mans cars are going to struggle to get to the end, stopping around now. And certainly the BMW that stopped earlier, the 24 car, John Edwards has to stop again. There's no way he can get to the end. And only those who are stopping in the next couple or 3 laps will get to the end, unless they're hiding fuel that we don't know about. Because nobody's done more than what Earl Bamber is on at the moment, which is a 30.30 lap stint. In fact, has he pitted this time? No, he hasn't. So that's now through onto his 31st lap. So now he is into final stop territory, presuming that he only gets lapped 1 more time by the overall leader, which I think is a reasonable thing to think of, Jeremy.
You're absolutely right there, John. I'm wondering whether the BMWs, maybe they were just trying to kind of even out the stints, figure out the tyre wear was more of a problem for them than for the other contenders. Maybe that explains why they came into the pit lane just a little bit before the other contenders. But certainly, you're right. I don't think the BMWs can make it, and that's a major problem for them, because they were certainly looking for a while there to be in control of the race.
We've got it. NSX into the pit lane. Shea Adam is watching that.
That's Alvaro Parent, who comes in after a knockout, drag-out fight on track with his teammate Mario Farnbacher. But Alvaro will be staying aboard. Fuel and tires for him, as well as fuel and tires for Lawson Aschenbach, who brings in the Riley Technology Mercedes AMG. So both of them will be leaving the pit lane not too far from one another.
And they are going to be able to go from here. That's spot on, the numbers, I reckon. The GT Le Mans and the GT Daytona cars doing somewhere around 30 laps, 29-30 laps for the best of them, at least. Hawksworth and Bell both have already completed their 29th, or on their 29th lap. That's first and second, and that should be enough to get them home with a lap time of just under a minute and 50 seconds, and assuming they'll get lapped a couple of times by the leader, I reckon they've only got about 30 laps to go. And it looked to me as though Hawksworth was diving in the pit lane now, as in from what was the lead of the GT Le Mans category comes Earl Bamber, and if things work the normal way, Shea Adam, Earl will be staying into the end.
Correct. Earl Bamber is not going to be giving up his seat, as Lawrence Vantor didn't show very much in practice one. Earl only got the last 15 minutes. He's decided to take over for the remainder of the race. Where he wanted to get in, well, sorry, buddy, you didn't share your toys yesterday. Fuel and tires on the windshield are on for Bamber, as the sun is now properly down, and fuel and sticker tires for Jack Hopkins, the leader, as he came into the pit lane of GTD in the number 14 Lexus right behind him. The number 12 Lexus also getting fuel and sticker tires as Bam Bam goes back out onto the fast lane right behind him. Antonio Garcia in that yellow Corvette. He too got fuel and tires. We've been saying it for a long time, Don. Who's better on the pit lane than Corvette Racing? Just about nobody.
No, that's very true. And that was again a 30 lap stint. Antonio Garcia so gets a lap longer than Jordan Taylor. I reckon that'll get them to the end in that one. I'm slightly worried. Tom Milton's got 29. Yeah, all right, so they're going to be tight as well. But the BMWs, as Jeremy rightly said, are in a little bit of grief as far as their stops. Both Conor De Philippi and John Edwards will need to stop again. Fred McAfee's got about another 5 laps before he comes in for his final stop. He needs slightly fewer litres of fuel to get him to the end, but that early gamble, Jeremy, on the wet weather tyres for Nick Tandy, short-term gain, but it's been long-term pain for them in the rest of the race.
Yeah, it has. They're just kind of off sequence how they're going to lead for a while now before they have to come in to make one more pit stop, but certainly it's not going to work out in those favours. The BMWs then are back to first 2 positions in GT. The question is, they got 21 seconds over the Porsche when last they came around, and the question is, are they going to be able to pull out enough of a gap to be able to make one more pit stop and still maintain their advantage? I don't think so. I think that's what the BMW team is trying to do at this stage in the race.
Yeah, and they may have to put less fuel again, so that would be the controlling factor to get the tyres changed in time. Tony Melander leads for Scuderia Corsa, the WeatherTech car, but he's due in next time round, I reckon, so it'll cycle back to the Ian Vassar Sullivan Lexus. How well's that been? There we go. Red, white, and blue car is in the pit lane. I reckon the GT Le Mans battle is going to come down to the Earl Bamber and Antonio Garcia battle. I reckon that's it. Tom Milner might have to save a bit of fuel, and it might need a splash, because he stopped, what, 1 lap, or was that 2 laps before? I think it was 2 laps before. Yes, it was 2 laps before the 2 cars that have got out ahead of him as well, so it wasn't that slick a stop either, Shea Adam.
No, and I'm a little bit confused confused by the timing screen right now because it's showing that Tommy Milner is indeed in 6th place in the class. Now, we are still expecting a pit stop from the 911 imminently, as that Porsche is doing the pit lane with Fred McAvecchi. But for the other cars, that just doesn't add up to me, as they're side-by-side battling once again. What are the Meyer Shank Racing teammates doing? They're giving me heart failure, John. This is not very nice.
But 3 cars ahead of him, don't forget, are going to pit shit. We've got Fred McAvecchi due in 3. Connor De Filippi has got, well, he can come in any time now and get to the end. He's 9 laps into a stint, but he can't get to the end from here. John Edwards, 17 laps into his stint, can't get to the end from here. So net, Tom Milner is 3rd position at the moment, but I think he's going to have to save fuel to get to the end. He stopped 2 laps before both the 912 and the 3. So the Porsche 912 and his teammate, the number 3. The best that anybody has done is Earl Bamber's 32-lap stint. The best a Corvette's done is 31. He might be tight. He might just make it to the end from there, but it is going to be very, very close indeed for Tom Milner. He might be on a little bit of a fuel save. Got left just under 50 minutes, Jeremy, and still plenty to pay for, with the 2 Mazdas now separated by 8 seconds up front.
That's right, yeah, that gap went down a little bit, a couple of seconds over the last 3 or 4 laps. In 3rd position, still Pipo Derani, but now the number 6 car, Dane Cameron's really got into his groove now, and he is beginning to close probably, well, he's been kind of with him now for the last 2 or 3 laps, so he's closed in he's whittled that gap down from over 3 seconds to less than 1. That is the battle for 3rd and 4th. Bourdais, in the meantime, he's been charging along. He's got that gap back to the deficit to number 6 car down to under 10 seconds now. But he's still certainly some very fast laps. Sebastian Bourdais, car number 5.
Hello to Sarah Rigby up in Crewe, really enjoying it. Can't even tear myself away to tweet, she says. Thanks for making it all possible, just what race fans need for their heart and their soul. Yes, it is food for the heart and soul at the moment, isn't it? This WeatherTech 240, 3/4 of an hour still to go, and Jack Hawksworth is back in the lead of the GT Daytona class, as the predicted stop for Tony Vilander in the Ferrari has taken place. He drops back to 5th position, about 18 seconds, 19 seconds ahead of Lawson Aschenbach. He's still having that battle with Pat Long, barely a second apart. And Till Bechtolsheim has got back into the Gradient Racing Acura, getting some nighttime running. Till, good on you, after the middle stint was done by Mark Miller. So Till getting back into that one. He was pretty quick in that opening stint. I was impressed by Till. He'll be loving this out there at the moment.
What's interesting in GTD, John, is that all of a sudden the gap between the 2 Lexuses is at the front. It was 10 seconds for forever. It's all of a sudden down to 4.5.
Yeah.
And Townsend Bell now is kind of got Jack Hawksworth inside. I'm sure they're not really pushing terribly hard at this stage in the race. Just looking at their lap times, Jack Hawksworth last time around 1:48.1, Townsend 1:48.2, Townsend Bell, and that's what's interesting about that is their fastest laps of the race by Hawksworth is 1:47.8, so he's within 0.3 of a second of his fastest lap of the race, so he is not lifted off. And Townsend Bell, I think it must have been slightly slower pit stop then on this most recent round of stops in GT2, but Hawksworth has enabled Townsend Bell to halve that gap. The 2 Meyer Shank Acura still running in lockstep. Number 86 going now ahead of number 57, and then still about 20 seconds behind them is Tony Vilander in the Superior Corsa WeatherTech Ferrari. That gap again has been pretty constant for a long, long time.
Well, I just checked in with one of those Meyer Shank Racing drivers that just to make sure that he was still breathing, because Matt McMurray is used to finishing the races. He was the LMP2 champion last year, where he finished pretty much every single race for the PR1 Matheson team. Now he's sitting up on the pit box and wanted to make sure that he was able to breathe through watching his car, the 86 Acura, battling with its sister car. He said that he's glad that the 2 cars are playing nice with one another, but their truly scary moment came during the pit stops, because a Corvette left right behind them in the pit box right as Mario was coming in. There was a very near collision, but both cars managed to get away
8 laps for the leader before they come in. What will be their final stop? Ticknell and Jarvis. Durrani. He's going to be due shortly, isn't he? He's not going to get to.
Leader on pit lane, John.
Yes, Makovecki, that's about right for him. That'll be 30 laps. So again, stretching it out to 30 laps numbers that I was working to fuel numbers earlier on. So that's going to drop Fred down. Looks like a full service ship, Adam, and a new set of sticker Michelin's going on there.
Yes, it was, and a windshield tear-off, crucially, for Fred Makovecki, who's been out there for 50 minutes on the track, which means that he would have been out there with that windshield cover on right there for the sunset stint. So it probably isn't exactly as clean as he would have wanted, just waiting on the He was very good at these stops, and away goes Fred.
Dropped him down, but that is his last stop as well, and the 2 BMWs ahead of him will have to stop again. Now the question will be, how far can Earl Bamber get into the race here? 25 laps predicted for the overall leader, still predicting a 94 lap race. So Earl Bamber at the moment is 5 laps in to a stint. We know that car can do 31 laps, so Bamber's not stopping again. So Bamber and Garcia are not stopping again, as we thought. So that is the real race for the GT Daytona, GTLM run. In GT Daytona, it is the 2 IMSA Sullivan cars, the 2 Lexus RCF GT3s, 4.5 seconds between them now. Hawksworth from T-Bell. It's got the Hawksworth car by the bright green number 1 on the side of the car, but also the big Mobile 1 decal on the door, which the other one doesn't have. That'll have bright green number 2 on the position runner. This has been a really good run by IMSA Sullivan and the 2 Lexus, Jeremy, Jack Hawksworth and Townsend Bell, backing up Aaron Taylitz and Frank Martin Calvo very well indeed, the 2 drivers who qualified and started the race.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Really fine run. Aaron Taylitz was set it up with a brilliant first stint, despite lots of lack of experience in these cars. And Jeff Hawksworth was just kind of doing the job from there. And Townsend Bell, hats off to him. He's just hanging right there with Jack Hawksworth, despite the fact he's had a pretty busy day. Been up at Indianapolis calling the NGT IndyCar Series race for NBCSN, and then took that private plane down to Florida to make a bit of a detour, but he's got himself nicely settled down, and he's matching the pace of Jack Hawksworth, running in second place. It's a great day so far for IMSA Sullivan, but now just less than 40 minutes remaining, and I would expect to see the leaders, the prototype cars, they can make their final pit stops very soon now in the next couple of laps.
Yeah, and they've got plenty of fuel in hand to Masters, so once they get in, it'll be up to them whether they run all the way to the end of their fuel and take a short splash to the end, or they do a time stop to get them to the end. But they're sound. They're absolutely sound. Hello to Hannah Lynch, who's sitting in a parking lot, socially distancing her car in Virginia, waiting for fireworks and listening to IMSA Radio. To get my usual full day of racing for my birthday weekend on May the 27th, but today is almost made up for it. There's been plenty of racing today, with our coverage over at NBC and NBCSN. And don't forget, it is the Brickyard 400 tomorrow, as well as Formula 1 and Formula 2 from the Red Bull Ring. And also, hello to Jesse Young. How good is this Maya Shank Acura battle right now? Very good indeed. El Perry supporting the Corvettes as usual. He's going to have a bit of a fight there, sure, towards the end of the race. Pit stop for the number 10, Wicker Fonsander, brought the Huntington Minolta Cadillac in. Adam.
The first of our prototype final pit stops, John, and it's Rangers going to be taking the car back out. There is a little bit of damage to the right rear. Where did that have come from, that's some carbon that's been shaved off of the front of that rear diffuser and
I think that happened when they had the tyre deflation in the practice session.
They did have more body parts. They did have spares. They would have replaced that.
Okay. Yeah, you'd have thought so. So that looks like might have been a bit of a rub on that car. Did Ranger stay in there?
He did.
Okay.
Ranger was into the end.
Okay.
Struggling. I mean, he'd fallen a long way behind Sebastian Bourdais. Bourdais made the pass for 5th place to get past Renger van der Zande on lap 59. Here we are on lap 71, and 18 seconds in those intervening 10 or 11 laps. Bourdais pulled out over Renger van der Zande, so he really has been struggling. And here is number 31 car making its final stop as well.
Yeah, and that's absolutely spot on. He's got a couple of laps in hand, so he'll be able to go full rich from here. And Pipo Derani on full rich is always worth the price of admission. Sebastian Bourdais will be due in. Let me see, just scroll along on the thing. He's got about, maybe one or two more laps to go. Possibly 3 laps to go, but again, from here on in, Jeremy, it's anybody who can do in the DPIs, anybody who can do 21, 22 laps, 22, 23 laps actually, you're in for your last stop, aren't you? And that's what the leader is doing now, Harry Tingle coming in.
Yeah, just very quickly, number 31 car actually did 35 laps between stops. I wonder why he was losing pace to the two Mazdas in particular. He was trying to stretch out that fuel. Was the Pipo Derani. He's now made that final
25
race leader. Yeah,
he's
long
he's done 2 25-lap stints. His last 2 stints were both 25 laps, so people quick and frugal as well. Looks like Tingle's staying in the car. New drinks bottle for him as well. So that was J-Bob who came over and did that on the right-hand side. Anniversary year of Mazda Motor Corporation. He could have got a few more laps, Jeremy, but he didn't want to get into that twilight zone of being caught out if a safety car does come out. So you make your stop when you can when you're in the lead to get to the end.
Absolutely right, John. Yes, they're within their fuel window to be able to get to the end with that final pit stop. So no point in not coming in at this stage for him.
Hello to Tom Abramatis, listening in Wisconsin at the moment. Not doing Dungeons and Dragons tonight. Pen and paper RPG though. Role-play game with the family on the 4th of July weekend. In comes the 24 BMW, John Edwards from 2nd position. Now that will be one of 2 BMW stops. Connor De Filippi probably got another 6 or 7 laps if he wants them. Now the thing,
Garcia's ahead of number 912.
Yes, he is. That's the effective lead, Jeremy. Good spot.
Indeed so. Yeah, indeed so. And they're pulling out over Tommy Miller. You said Tommy Miller was really going to have to stretch out his fuel to get to the end. He stopped a couple of laps before number 912 and number 3 car. Well, number 3 car, Antonio Garcia, he'd been running in lockstep there with the number 912 car, but both of those 2 cars yet to make their final pit stop. So, excuse me, they stopped a while ago, didn't they?
Yes, they did. They're done.
They're good to go. So, beg your pardon.
It's Tommy.
They came in with about 55 minutes remaining.
Yeah, it's Tommy Milner who is going to have to try and stretch just a little bit. So coming out of the bus stop, just caught maybe a little bit of dampness, a bit of the curb, but it wasn't a great exit from the bus stop from the leading, presumptive leading Porsche. And the number 3 Corvette round the outside, Antonio Garcia going to the high side, coming into the tri-oval, and that's where it happened. Looked to me as though there was some dirt or some water thrown from the back of the Porsche, Jeremy, and that's what just slowed it down as it was coming out of the bus stop. As in for its final stop comes Connor De Filippi, so Garcia will, Jeremy, go through into the lead.
Yes, I'm sure they've changed the tires as well, aren't they, on the BMW? So yeah, that's definitely going to cost him the lead. And the number 25 guy is only in on lap 53, so he's only done 17 laps on this stint. So it's somewhat curious that they should come in so soon. Here comes the race leader, Oliver Jarvis, and Dane Cameron then will likely be in on this lap as well. If not, he might take the lead. But Sebastian Bourdais is caught right up with Dane Cameron in they're all into the pit lane.
Well, that's 20 lap stint. So, Oliver Jarvis is a 22 lap stint, and he's got 20 laps to go. So even if he gets the line at the wrong time and has to do 21 laps, then he should be all right in fuel, and that's what they will have been looking for in from second and third, Bourdais and Cameron. So this is a race for the pit lane crew as well, and they're all going to be fueling to the end. So this will be a full fuel load. That's what will take the time. So you might as well throw a new set of Michelins on it. There's no point in doing anything else. I presume there was no driver changes from the top three there.
Correct. Those would be the same drivers leaving, as Oliver Jarvis is the first car to finish with the service to get back out onto the pit lane. Sebastian Bourdais and Dane Cameron now involved in a pit lane race to see which one of their crews is more efficient after a 5-month off period. And it looks like it might be Bourdais who gets out first according to the timing and scoring. We'll just have to wait and see how it shapes up when we get back out on track.
At IMSA Radio, Dave Alcock said, didn't realise we were going to get dusk night time running in the race. Always looks great at night. I think this format start time has worked superbly. Don't forget we were a bit late because of the thunder and lightning, putting everything back, 40, 45 minutes or so. But I agree, I think this would have been a good time anyway to have the race, if I'm honest. It is part of the tradition, the 4th of July, to have the sports car race running into the darkness. Now, Right Motorsports down on the inside of the tri-oval, coming into turn 1, past the 44 Andy Lally driven GRT Magnus. That's another lap Pavlov is putting on there. He's still trying to chase down Lawson Aschenbach and Riley in the Mercedes AMG, but he's dropped away to almost 2 seconds now. Let's have a look down as we head into the last half an hour of the positions, and we'll start in GTD by the Vassar Sullivan Lexus, the 14 and the 12, Hawksworth and Bell, 4 seconds between them, and they've put 16 seconds over the two Acura NSX 86 and 57 far back from the end. They're about 2.5 seconds between them. They've got 15 seconds on Tony Vielander, solid top 5 at the moment for the WeatherTech Scuderia Corsa Ferrari. He's got 22 seconds on Aschenbach, he's got 2 seconds on Long, 6th and 7th Mercedes Riley and Right Motorsports. Then Bill Overland, after that short stop for the puncture on the M6 from Turner Motorsport, he's back to speed again. It's got nearly a minute until Beckelsheimer, who's got 40 seconds on Andy Lally. That's your top 10. GT Le Mans, Corvette Racing in the lead by 2 seconds. Antonio Garcia turning up the heat, 44.0 last time around against Elbamber's 44.6. They should be able to go full rich to the end of the race in half an hour's time, those two. Tom Milner, little question mark over Tom. He might be saving fuel, 45.8 last time around. Sort of says to me he might be. He's got 12 seconds of a gap to hold on to that third place on the podium from Fred Makovecki. Now he can go full rich. 44.1 last time around for Fred in the 911. Then it's the two BMW M8 GTEs who, quite frankly, have not had that pace, certainly not been able to do the runs either on their fuel or on their tyres, or a combination of both. At the front of the field, it's the two Mazdas, 13.5 seconds apart, 55 from 77. Tingle from Jarvis, and they've got 17.5 seconds further back from them. Sebastian Bourdais, who's on the podium, but only by 3 seconds at the moment, ahead of Dane Cameron in the Acura Team Penske number 6, the number 7 car with an engine problem behind the wall earlier on. Pipo Derani was just 1.3 seconds further back, so 3 cars there battling for the last step of the podium, sort of sitting within about 5 seconds of each other. Van der Zande for Konica Minolta, the black Cadillac, is another 26.5 seconds further back. It's got half a minute on Tristan Fortier in 7th position. That's how they stand with 28.5 minutes to go, and all still to play for, particularly, I would say, Jeremy, for that third place. Bourdais, Cameron and Derani, all fuelled to the end of the race, and all very feisty characters who will want to be on that podium.
They will, but Bourdais been the star for me in the second half of the race. Absolutely tremendous stint. He closed right up to the tail of Dane Cameron before that pit stop. He's got out ahead of him, and he's pulled out 4 seconds from Bourdais to Cameron, number 5 to the number 6. And you're right, Pipo Derani is charging in now on Dane Cameron. Before that round of pit stops, number 31 car was ahead of the number 6, and number 5 was closing up rapidly. Now it's number 5 ahead of number 6, and the number 31 car is now behind the number 6 car, so that's going to be a really interesting battle, I think, probably for 4th place, because I think Bourdais is going to make the bottom step of the podium his own from here.
I just checked in with the Wright Motorsports driver Ryan Hardwick, who did the first stint, remember, of that number 16 Porsche. He said that it was his first ever time driving with slick tires on a wet track. He's only ever driven on wet tires on a wet track, so it was a first for everything. Super slippery the first couple of laps, and he was overly cautious, but once it started to dry out, he was able to start turning consistent lap times. So he feels good about his performance so far. And guys, I reckon if the positions hold the way they are now, that means that Ryan Hardwick and Patrick Long will lead this race as the GTD points leaders.
Hello to the canton of Zug in Switzerland, right turn lover from there. And listen, Henry enjoying this race. Moni and Billy in their new digs on the other side of the country from Daytona, which is where they would have been this weekend. Kendrick, real edge of the seat racing from Sacramento, California. Steve Taylor, itchy eyes, fighting the need to sleep. Can't explain how much I've missed the noise of IMSA and the voices of IMSA Radio. It's good to have you guys and girls back tuning in from the UK tonight. Wherever you are, thanks for staying with us after the rain and lightning delay earlier on. We're inside the last half an hour with still storylines to play out. But how about this, finishing in the darkness on the 4th of July for round 2 of the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship, the WeatherTech 240 at Daytona, and Sebastian Bourdais just trucking on in 3rd position at the moment. 36.1 though for Dane Cameron for accurate. Jeremy, Dane is not giving up this fight. He's 3.5 seconds back, but that's his fastest lap of the race, and he has to, because Derani's just put that car's fastest lap of the race in as well.
Yeah, great stuff. So is Justin Gauthier, a couple of positions behind him. Gauthier just over 35.8. The second quickest, okay. Bourdais a little bit quicker there. He's over 35.5. 35.8 for Tristan Gauthier. Also, a new fastest lap last time around of the race in GTLM by the leader Antonio Garcia in that number 3 Corvette. He's got a couple of seconds in hand now over the Porsche with just over 25 minutes to go in this race.
I'll tell you what, where the battle is though in GT Le Mans, if Earl Bamber can't turn the wing up, it's Tommy Milner being closed in on by Fred McAvecchi. It could be another Porsche on the podium there, down to under 8 seconds, and a 1.5 seconds call it 2 seconds last time gained by Fred McAvecchi. I'm convinced that Milner is fuel saving as much as he can. I think he might be a couple of laps short, certainly 1 lap short. It's not a hugely long lap round here, 3.6 miles, but it's no good. No matter how short or long the lap is, whether it's the Nürburgring or Le Mans or right here, if you've only got 0.8 of a lap and you need to have a full lap in the car, Jeremy, it's not going to help.
Give me an inch, give me a mile, whatever it might be, and though you've got to have you've got to have enough fuel to get to the end.
The other battle that I keep the other battle I'm looking at the moment is Tony Vilander in 5th in GTD and Lawson Aschenbach in 6th. They're too far apart. It's Aschenbach and Pat Long that is still under 3 seconds, but Aschenbach just being able to inch out a half a tenth here, a couple of tenths there. That was under a second for quite a long time. Now all of a sudden it's nearly 3 seconds. So that one just seems like the pendulum is swinging towards Riley Motorsports and the Mercedes AMG GT3 of Lawson Aschenbach for a top 6 finish there for the number 7 before the car wanted started so very well indeed. I've got to tell you though, Jeremy, the Multimatic Mazda Motorsports team have come out the traps very well indeed here and played their cards very nicely. The dark soul red crystal car with the green LEDs on the top. He's looking very good indeed at the front of the field, and with 11 seconds on your teammate and the better part of 30 seconds on the rest of the field, and you've got to think with just on 20 minutes to go, that's a decent afternoon and evening's work so far for that team.
Yeah, isn't it just? It's been a really, really good performance by this entire team. I mean, the cars were fast at the Rolex 24 about 5 months ago now. Then, remember in that race, they definitely had to dial those cars back a bit in order to make sure they could get through 24 hours. No such problems this evening, and they've been able to run out those cars pretty much flat out the whole way. I think they're pretty much on cruise mode now. They're doing 37s, they're running 35 further on. But they're running, I think, well in control of their own destiny at this stage in the game with 22 minutes to go.
Yeah, as you said, Aston 40 has been brilliant for Mustang Sampling racing. Took over the car, and a bit of stints ago on Joao Barbosa, who did the first 30 laps or so of the race. He's turned the wheel up again the last couple of laps, under a little bit of pressure. Nico Durrani again, he's fastest lap of the race, and it closes down to within, let's call it a second, of Dane Cameron. So those three cars still, Jeremy, within 5.5 seconds of each other. That battle for third keeps ebbing and flowing through the traffic, but that isn't over. One slip, one wheel off the grass as Durrani now gets it down under a second to Cameron. And, you know, people just doesn't know the meaning of, you know, ease off and slow up, does he?
He doesn't. He doesn't. Absolutely right. He's charging on there, and you know, that trio battling over third place. They've pulled out a long way now over Renger van der Zande in car number 10, who incidentally has just turned his best lap of the race and won 36.5.
The track must be rubbing it nicely now, I would have thought.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, that's only a couple of tenths away from Nico Durrani, who also turned his best lap on that last lap around as well. So that's interesting to see that the Cadillacs are running so well now, having particularly number 10 car been struggled all the way through this race. But I think all of a sudden Renger van der Zande has realised that Tristan Vautier has been closing on him by, well, better part of a couple of seconds a lap. And with 20 minutes remaining, you know, I think he was going to have to turn up the wick a little bit in order to be able to keep a hold of 6th place rather than fall into 6th.
Yeah, and the track temperature, I think, playing a part there, Jeremy. It's down at 25 degrees Celsius now. Tracy says there's something magical about watching cars racing at night. The greatest glowing, the sparks flying. Well, Matt IMSA have missed you. I think we'll all say here to that, won't we? She'll be very happy, because I know that on her Twitter feed, she's a Mazda fan. 2 of those Mazdas leading out at the moment. Another team who'll be ecstatic is the Vassar Sullivan Lexus team. 5 seconds between those two at the moment. 15 seconds back to Mario Farnbacher, who has just closed in a wee bit over the last handful of laps.
John, that gap's been back on that 45, the gap with second Lexus to the third place Acura with 15 seconds. So yes, it's ebbed and flowed a little bit over the last couple of laps, you're right, but overall that has remained remarkably stable.
Well, and that's the thing, isn't it, Jeremy? You can look and see,
yeah.
Oh, hang on, they've lost 5 seconds. Oh, they've gained 5 seconds over 2 or 3 laps. But that's hitting the clump of battling cars, isn't it? And that tends to be what happens in endurance racing, even in this sprint format. I have to say, the guys at IMSA, once again, have knocked it out of the park in terms of making this a strategically interesting race. I know people will say, well, at 2 hours 40, it's not really an endurance race, but it hasn't easily broken up into, 3, 4, whatever amount of stints. The guys on the pit lane have had to do a bit of thinking, as much as the guys behind the wheel have had to keep their concentration as well, and particularly with the rolling the 6 of doom with the weather at the start of the race.
Indeed, yeah. There's certainly been all sorts of interesting battles, hasn't there? And you were talking a little while ago about Fred Macavecchi, number 911 Porsche. He's now within a second of Tommy Milner and that is now a battle for third and fourth positions between number 4 Corvette and the number 911 Porsche.
Yeah, and that was Tommy going 2 laps shorter than his competition, 1 lap shorter than 1 lap shorter than Garcia, and 2 laps shorter than Bamber on his first stint in the car. Jordan Taylor did a cracking opening stint for the number 3 Corvette, which set up Antonio Garcia. He did 29 laps in the first stint of the race, and that was the greatest number of laps by any of the GT Le Mans cars in the opening stint. Garcia backed that up with 31 laps, and now obviously he gets the opportunity to take it to the end. The 912 did 28 laps in the hands of Vantour, then 32 from Bamber, and then Bamber will take it to the end. It's amazing how 1 or 2 laps has made the difference there, Jeremy.
It is, and it's not over yet. Just look, Earl Bamber has just had his best lap of the race in the number 912 Porsche, 143.885. All of a sudden now that gap between the 2 leaders, it was 2 seconds, is now 1.
So the 2 battles then, for first and second, and for second, and third and fourth, down to a second or less then. Corvette versus Porsche ×2, and the number 911 right now on the distinctive rear lights of the number 4 Tommy Milner, who I think, to be honest, is rather driving with one hand behind his back in terms of how little throttle he is using and how little throttle an engine map he is using to try and eke out another 1, maybe 2 laps. The distinctive glowing twin tailpipes under the back of the C8R that we noticed for the first time in the nighttime practice sessions at the Rolex 24 Daytona, the end of January, still very much evident, like the Batmobile glowing underneath the back of that C8R, with the engine mounted, of course, between those tailpipes and the engine. And here, slowly, surely, and somewhat scary if you're a Corvette fan, the green-eyed monster is the marker lights on the front end of that Porsche number 911 of Fred Makovecki, and he's just closed in. He has no fuel worries with 15 minutes to go. His teammate is within a second of Antonio Garcia in the lead. That's a more equal fight as he goes to the outside, the 911 in the tri-oval, got the draft and goes through.
Just blew right past him, straight there. That's incredible. We haven't seen anything like that to this stage in the race. Last lap around, by the way, Oliver Jarvis. Okay, he's back up to pace now. Last lap was 141, all of a sudden he lost 4 seconds on that previous lap. Didn't really made a mistake or just ran across some traffic in the wrong place. But all of a sudden now we've got this Porsche back in the lead then. Come on, Jeremy. Wait a minute, that was 911.
No, that was for third. That was for third. Yeah, now, Jeremy, the other thing is, I don't think Tommy Milner's safe in fourth now either, because Conor De Filippi is hauling the mail as well, and he's only 5.5–6 seconds further back. And with all the wars that BMW have had, he is fueled to the end, as is John Edwards, although he's a further 12 seconds back. We've only got 15 minutes to go, and for these guys, that is going to be something around about 8 or 9 laps to go for the end of the race for the GT Le Mans cars, but certainly 5.5 seconds at the pace that Tom Milner's going at the moment, having to eke out that extra lap, maybe 2 on the fuel. I think he's not exactly a sitting duck. I tell you what, he's certainly a very tasty target for the BMWs.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because the gap has come down by a couple of seconds in the last couple of laps. So certainly, I think Conor De Filippi has a bit between his teeth. There's another look here at the number 911 car just breezing past the Corvette. I think you nailed it, John. I think the number 4 car is just eking out the fuel as best he can, and he's probably having to do a little bit of lift and coast. And certainly, I think that would explain why is it 911 Porsche was able to just breeze past him on the straight.
Lobland's been in and out again in the BMW 6. Been the perfect run at all for Turner Motorsport and the Liquid Moly car. He's in 8th position in GT Daytona. What's that gap back from Tom Milner? Yeah, down to 4 seconds, you see. And meantime, the lead, Antonio Garcia, has had a bit of a wake-up call there. Took 0.3 of a second out of Earl Bamber. So the 3, the 912 and the 911 charging at the moment and on full rich. So Antonio Garcia in the yellow Corvette. And the next set of lights behind him is Earl Bamber. And now, he's got caught up behind one of the IMSA Sullivan cars. That's the leading car, I think, is it? No, that's the... Yeah, that is the leading car. Just didn't get a great exit, and through comes the 77 of Ollie Jarvis round the outside, and the Porsche's right in there. There will be a very, very excited Earl Bamber that he's able to close up on Antonio Garcia. But that Corvette, Jeremy, does seem to have the legs of the Porsche on the speedway parts of the racetrack.
It does. Isn't that interesting? And either Tommy Milner made a mistake coming out of the Russell chicane on that previous lap when the McAvoy cruised on past him, or as you suggested earlier on a long time ago, he's just eking out that fuel as best he can. Yeah. To reach the finish of this race without making another pit stop.
But like I said, it's only 1 or 2 laps, Jeremy. It is really that close for Tommy. But just we've been working on some strategy software during the off time that we've been putting to good use in our iRacing, the longer races in the sim racing that we've been covering. And we continue, by the way, to cover sim racing, including some of the big iRacing events, which will include the Petit Le Mans and the rest of the DNLS, the Nürburgring Nordschleife season as well. I've been trying to do some coverage of the Spa 24 as well in the virtual world. As I say, we've been working with good friend James Muscat, who's doing some cracking work for us. The absence of Paul Truswell. Get well soon, Paul. All our best thoughts with you. I've James has made it easy for me to keep up with what's going on, and it's been a boon, to be honest. So the computer's doing all the work. I've just got to remember which mouse is which, to be honest, with all the screens that I've got here and where I'm looking. Down to 10 minutes then, what do we reckon? Can that number 3 hold on? Antonio Garcia, that's another good lap for him. 44.0, 44.1. And all of a sudden it's nearly a second and a half, that gap between himself and Earl Bamber. Fred McAvoy has pulled out 4 seconds already on Tom Milner, who is now under pressure for CDP. Connor De Filippi, just a second or so. That is just extraordinary how much Tommy is having to lift and coast. And this could be real redemption for BMW. There is a significant milestone that Corvette Racing would achieve if they win here this evening. I'm not going to say it at the moment because we've been waiting for 2 years since their last victory, and they've been stuck on their US soil wins for a long time. And as I say, it's a milestone number to come up. They will know it. I'm sure they'll know it. Ryan Smith will know it. I'm not saying it, Ryan. I promise you, I'm not saying it yet. Hawksworth and Bell for Ian Vassar-Sullivan. What a day for Team Bell. Working in the booth at Indianapolis for the IndyCar, the Verizon IndyCar race. Now 6 seconds away from his teammate, but solidly on the podium for Ian Vassar-Sullivan. Sorry, go ahead, Jeremy.
I'm just beg your pardon, John. The thing that team will be most pleased about, I think, is the consistency of that Lexus, because this last lap around Jack Hawkins was a 148.7. His fastest lap of the race was 147.7, and generally speaking, he's been doing low to mid 48s. So within 4 or 5 tenths of a second of the car's fastest lap of the race all the way through the stint. That is, I think, what will please that Ian Vassar-Sullivan team more even almost than the race win.
Well, particularly given all of the trials and tribulations they've had during the development of that car and keeping the tyres underneath it, how much work they've done to mitigate that, Jeremy. And they haven't just vindicated it, they've gone right on top of that. That's a quality GT Daytona field ahead of two very quick battling Acuras, ahead of a Ferrari, ahead of a Mercedes, ahead of a Porsche, ahead of a BMW, a very quick McLaren. Now, I would love to have seen the Compass Racing car in the mix there, because that clearly was a very fast car, at least over a short stint. We're not sure how it's been on the longest stint, although I have been watching the lap times and they've been pretty good. Paul Holden's been solidly in the low to middle 49s when he's been in it, and Corey Fergus was quicker than that when he was in it. That could have been a real contender as well, and it bodes well for the rest of the season in GTT. Something your head worried about, is it, to be honest?
No, it doesn't. It's been very, very closely matched there. This battle in the GT11 continues at the front there with Garcia still just over a second ahead of Earl Bamber, but Conor Di Filippi is just on this last lap got past Tommy Milner. That is for fourth position then in the number 25 BMW.
Yeah, and it will still be points, of course, for Tommy Milner. He's got 11 seconds back to John Edwards in the second of the Team RLL BMWs. With 7 minutes to go, I very much doubt that's going to be an issue. Although I say that, and it's, you know, a second, there's 1.7 seconds each lap now. Back into the pits for the number 16 car again. It's the right motorsport car. We'll try and find out why that car is back into the pits late on. Did that need a pit stop? I don't think so. Stay with us at the end of the race. We'll head straight into Michelin post-race tech, and we'll have a quick blast through the stories and the points are rising. Any questions that you've got, please? Hashtag Michelin PRT to at IMSA Radio. Questions, points arising, observations. I know it's very late in the UK and Europe. Maybe those of you in the US have got some parties to go to. But fire those questions in. Hashtag Michelin PRT. Coming down to the last 6 minutes then. Let's have a little roundup of what's been going on today. GTLM, just 6 cars. But Jeremy, what a cracker that's been. All kinds of different strategies. And still Earl Bamber pushing on. He's just done his fastest second sector of the race, and it's back down to 0.912. How appropriate as a Porsche number between himself and Antonio Garcia. Garcia cannot rest here in the last couple of laps.
He can't, absolutely right. No, I mean, they've been sort of trading lap times. Last time around, the Porsche was a 10th of a second quicker, and that's about what it is. I mean, they've got to be absolutely perfect, because the slightest hint of a mistake is going to cost Antonio Garcia that victory. So he's got to make sure there is no hint of a mistake.
NTT IndyCar Championship, sorry. I was a sponsor behind the times there. In my defence, it's been a very long time. Thank you, Alan. Under 5 minutes to go now. Been some good performances in the minor positions as well in GT Daytona. Barbara and Perez have had a great battle all the way through. There's still only 6 seconds between them. Vilander and that Scuderia Corsa Ferrari been there or thereabouts. Lawson Aschenbach and Gar Robinson. They'll, I think, be pretty happy with 6th position, Jeremy Shaw, particularly with the difficult conditions that Gar had to undertake his first stint under at the start of the race.
I think it's been, I agree with you entirely. It has been a really good performance by that team. Gar Robinson kind of struggled a little bit, I think, in the race he did last year, but he's picked it up. He did a very good first stint, and Lawson Aschenbach has been turning some very, very quick laps. So it's been a very good result for that Riley Motorsport team.
Well, there's another personal best for Earl Bamber, 143.7, 43.8. Antonio Garcia, it's still just hovering around about a second. Back in GT Daytona, Tilbeck. Oh, there's Garcia's just put the fastest GT Le Mans lap of the race in, with probably 2 laps to go. These guys are absolutely at it, throwing overhand now. This is the big battle on the circuit. I just want to make a quick point about the Gradient guys. Tilbeck and Scheimer got back in to do a second stint in the dark there. He's done a really good job as well. They'll take sprint championship runners, and this is the first round of the sprint championship. I think they'll be pretty happy with that as well. GT Le Mans though, Jeremy, I know it's only 6 cars, but once again, it's delivering. And here comes Earl Bamber. He's going to make it really hard indeed for Antonio Garcia to do anything but push all the way through to the end of the race. And they're all right on fuel, but only all right. If they've got to do one more lap, it could get interesting.
Well, that's true, yes, because those two they pitted on the same lap.
They did.
I think in the last bit something each time around. So they've been absolutely nip and tuck the whole way through this race. They were.
Bamber has done a 32 lap stint. The Corvette's best is a 31. So if it comes down to it, you might think that the Porsche's got a little bit left in the tank. I think we might get the white flag the next time around. I think we will for the leader, Harry Tincknell. So that will make it this one and one more. That's going to make it a 95 lap race. So we're on the same record pace that we set at Daytona in terms of the amount of laps turned for the length of the race, and we're going to go a little bit beyond that now. All right, this is a shorter race, and I understand that completely. 92 would have tied the pace at the Rolex, so that's already beaten. This has been a full green flag, 2 hours and 40 minutes, all bar 1 minute 45 seconds. It's on the clock. Hello to RJ O'Connell. He'll be excited about the return of Japanese motorsport as well. He said, did you all miss IMSA? Or did you all miss IMSA? We all missed IMSA, RJ. Absolutely right. At IMSA Radio, hashtag Michelin PRT, please, for your questions, comments, points arising. And we are now officially on the white flag lap. So under 3 miles to go now for Harry Tincknell. And the gap at the front of the GT Le Mans field, all of a sudden over 2 seconds. Has Garcia broken Bamber?
Yeah, I think he has.
Off. It's Bechtelsheimer's off. Oh, after a great run from Gradient, he's made a mistake at the bus stop. I think that's the 22 car. Yes, it is the 22 car. But he's got it back onto the
10th position.
Yeah, I don't think he's lost a position there, has he? He was Paul Holden and he had about a minute on pole, so yeah, he's all right. Oh, he's got that car back on. That would have been Andres Levis, who's the team manager, would have been muttering under his breath there. Down to the bus stop for the final time. Mazda Motorsports now fully under the control of Multimatic, and into the pits right at the end for Lawson Aschenbach. Was that a splash of fuel, Shane?
It was. It was 1 lap short.
I thought that was going to be close, you know. 28 laps for that car. The leaders, Perez and Vilander, are also on 20. Perez on 28 laps. Hawksworth on 28 laps. They're going to get through. Coming to the checkered flag then. It's going to be a Mazda 1-2. Last year at this time we had back-to-back wins from Mazda. We called it the summer of Mazda. This is round 2, but we're on the 4th of July, and Harry Tincknell goes through ahead of his teammate Ollie Jarvis, 55 from 77. Top 2 steps to the podium for Mazda Motorsports and Multimatic, with Sebastian Bourdais doing a great job to bring the Mustang Sampling Racing Cadillac, the JDC run car, through the number 5 into 3rd place, by far the best of the Cadillacs, and ahead of the remaining Acura Team Penske, the number 6 car after its team car went up in a ball of flame. Well, not quite, but certainly quite spectacularly. In GT Le Mans, what a run it's been. The Corvette played the strategic game very well, had the pace when they needed it. Antonio Garcia, after Ollie Gavin led the race early on for the other car, it was Jordan Taylor who started the number 3, and here comes the position of Gerald Clark in the checkered flag. Corvette win at Daytona, ahead of Porsche 2nd and 3rd, BMW 4th, and only by 5 seconds Tommy Milner, who didn't make the lead lap. And amazing. Fell off the lead lap in the... well, yes, I mean, may have been struggling. And that, in GT Le Mans, is the 100th victory for Corvette Racing on American soil on Independence Day. Who writes these scripts? Give them a raise. In GT Daytona, Hawksworth and Bell, the Ian Vassar-Sullivan twins for the 14 and the 12 come through after a dominant run, 9 seconds ahead of Mario Farnbacher, who finishes the race for the best of the Acuras. And once again, the sky is lit up with fireworks. That was awesome. Absolutely awesome. Right to the end, Jeremy. And you've got to say that for their 100th victory, Corvette worked very hard. 2 years since Corvette Racing have won in the US, and they win their 100th on US soil on the 4th of July at a race that shouldn't have been at Daytona under normal circumstances. But they'll take whatever normal this is and say thanks very much, we've got the ton up.
Yeah, what a perfect storyline there for Corvette Racing, and they've worked so long and so hard for this 100th win. As you say, it was Long Beach 2 years ago, 2018, that had win number 99 on American soil, and what better place to do it than here at Daytona on Independence Day weekend.
Can't believe it. 1,042 days since the last win from Antonio Garcia and Ollie Gavin's early pace not paying off there in the other car. They had to save fuel with Tommy Milner at the end, so it'll be Jordan Taylor and Antonio Garcia. Big full moon shining down on the celebrations for Independence Day. We'll say thank you very much indeed to our colleagues Alex, Keith, you've done a cracking job up at NASCAR Productions for us in bringing us the pictures and working with us on the technical side of things. Stay tuned for Michelin post-race tech. We'll try and grab some of the drivers. Hashtag Michelin PRT at IMSA Radio. Don't go away, we're going to take a quick breath and be back with Michelin post-race tech, which starts right now. Well, what a race, what a comeback, what excitement. 5,000 people will be able to say I was there for the WeatherTech 240 and the return of IMSA WeatherTech Championship Racing. Daytona International Speedway for the Rolex was round one. We did not expect to be back here on the 4th of July, evoking great traditional Independence Day memories of the Paul Revere 250. Absolutely marvellous stuff, and a race that from start to finish had everything, even Mother Nature chipped in with a light show of her own. Never mind the fireworks, we had thunder and lightning and a damp track to start things off as well. That threw a bit of a spanner in the works for some of the team's plans, but ultimately the cream has risen to the top. We'll go through the results for you and try and get some driver interviews as well. The 55 Mazda comes to victory lane for Jonathan Bomarito and Harry Tinknell. Tinknell finishing the race off, having just signed a long-term commitment to Multimatic, who now oversee that program, that Mazda program totally. And J-Bomb did his thing at the beginning of the race and did it very, very well indeed. That is brilliant stuff. hashtag Michelin PRT. Matt says, is it too soon to say Mazda has arrived, and has the switch from Yost to Multimatic lent any challenges after so much progress? Multimatic always been involved, Jeremy. The fact that Yost aren't on it, that's a contractual thing. Their contract ended at I believe at the end of March. But Larry Holt's Multimatic always been instrumental, and indeed, of course, that car based on the Multimatic LMP2 chassis as well. But Mazda love this time of the year. What is it about the summer months? They come out when the sun's shining.
Well, they do, plus the shorter races that play to their favour as well, compared to the early season endurance events at Daytona and Sebring, who habitually start the season. But we know these cars have been fast. They've showed the speed here at Daytona before. They came away with a second place finish from the Rolex 24 in January. That was a great start to the season for them. They've built upon that, and they've come here. They've been strong all the way through the weekend, and that was a well-deserved victory for Mazda Motorsports.
They've got a run of shorter races now, because the long races that we normally have at this time of the year, the Salem 6 Hours at Glen, they're a little bit further through the years. There's enough continuity in that programme, surely, to continue the kind of progress that we've seen over the last 12 months or so.
Yeah, no question about it. Everything is in place there now. The engineering structure has been unchanged